Hello, everyone. Hi, guys. How is everyone doing? How many people do
Hi.
we have on the live stream with us right now? We have 33 people. But please, guys, we need to smash that like button so that the numbers can increase to let's see if we get to 200 today on this live stream. We need to get to 1,000 if it's possible. Okay. And yes, I know I'm coming to you guys portrait mode. But yeah, we said let us try something new. Let's see how it goes. So welcome, guys. Welcome, everyone. And we have 3 people with us. One of them decided that she doesn't want you guys to see her face. So
Sorry,
bear with
guys.
us. And we have another one who's like, yeah, we need to. I want my face to be seen. Okay, we have Exotic from the UK, and we have Modern Melbourne Man from Australia. Hi, guys. And how are you all doing?
Hi. I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
You're doing well. How are you,
I'm
Modern?
good. I'm good. I'm great, Frank, man. Always good to chat to you. Always good to chat to you, bro. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. In case you guys are wondering, this is my guest. We are doing an assorted Nigerian African live stream. So I am the Nigerian in the live stream representing the western part of this country, or this continent rather. And I have 2 people from the south. So it would have been better if I had like one person from the west, one person from the north, one person from the east, and one person from the south. But this is what I could get. So we're going to work with what I can. I could live my ass. Okay, so I have I'm from Nigeria, and the Exotic is a native of Zimbabwe, and the Modern Man is a native of South Africa. Okay. Yeah, so you can see who we are representing. We are representing all the people that need to be represented. And we have wonderful people in the chat. We have Jax saying, hello, Frank. Jax is from South Africa, by the way. She's saying, hello. Yep. And we have Sachin. Sachin is from India. Lives in the US, and was raised in Africa. I've forgotten where, but I think it's Uganda. Sachin, I hope I'm correct. But he was raised in Uganda, I think. This is a wonderful guest of mine. I don't know where she's from. Sorry, guys. It's not everybody I know where they're from. But nice to have everyone. See Melbourne Man giving his comments. Nice to have. I'm echoing. Who is making me echo? Okay, I've stopped echoing. Nice to have everyone. We have Pagan Games. We have Parachick, who has been asking so many questions before the live stream started. And we are going to try as much as we can to answer all of your questions. Okay, yeah. Sachin just told me he's from he was raised in both Zambia and Uganda. So yeah. Again, guys, please. I know I'm using a new medium of live streaming. It's usually not the case that I come to you guys in this mode. But please hit the like button, smash, destroy, demolish that like button so that the algorithm can push us to more people, and we can have an interesting, fun, exciting live stream. Okay. Let me just point this out. This is a Parachick telling us that she worked in Uganda. See, so we have so many people who are familiar with Africa. So many people. I hope you guys are excited to talk to them, and they have a lot of questions to ask us. And LF is saying, hello, Frank, and the fabulous guest. Hello to you too.
Hello.
But let's get into, we have a couple of things we want to discuss. We have a couple of questions we want to ask, 20 that I consider crucial. plus the ones that will be coming from you guys who are watching us. If you want us to feature your question, just start the question. When you're typing it in the live chat, you start with Q plus your question. When I see a Q besides you're starting your comment, I know that you're asking a question, and I will highlight that, and we'll get to it like halfway through the show. And also, just in between all the questions to be answering, I'll be addressing each of your questions. So what else? Why am I hearing echo? What else? Okay, no echo. I'm still
I
hearing
think
the echo.
exotic.
Yeah, I think it's from exotic. Sorry. I'll have to be the one muting exotic every once in a while.
Is it me?
It looks like it's you, but it's fine.
Oh,
Yeah, and I have
okay,
Tabitha.
mute me.
Yeah, don't worry. It will not be a rude muting. It will be respectfully done. We have Tabitha with us. We have just telling everybody. So yeah, comment, like, follow, share, support. Do all the things that need to be done. Do all the algorithm things. Anyways, so yeah, like I said, if you want to ask questions, begin your question with a Q, and we'll get to them. And yeah. So before we start asking the questions, there was something we were discussing. We were discussing before I click live, we were discussing the beauty pageantry that took place in two African countries. One took place in South Africa and the other one took place in Nigeria. Amebo, man, I want you to use this opportunity to explain. I know I don't have so many Nigerians right now watching us, but I hope they are, if they get to rewatch this live stream, I want them to be able to get something out of it. Explain to them, because I think it's a difficult thing for Nigerians to understand. Explain to them how exactly it is that the issue with Chidinma, so everybody can understand what it is, and not accuse South Africans of doing something that they did not do.
Yeah, I think thank you. I think one of the most painful things as a South African is to have people just call you xenophobic without actually trying to understand why is it the South Africans have such strong feelings. What's actually happening. So, for people who don't know, so Chidinma, she said, well, the story is that her father is Nigerian, her mother's Mozambican, right? And she was born in South Africa in 2001. Right, which makes her around 23 years old. So she entered the beauty pageant, the Miss South Africa beauty pageant. Everything was fine. People started having questions when they noticed that on her social media, right, on her actual social media, there was a Nigerian and Mozambican flag, but no South African flag, right?
Okay.
And so people were trying to figure out, like, if you're going to be the ambassador, how's this going to work, right? So people were asking genuine questions, like, hey, what's going on? Like, were you actually born here? And it was her responses that got people really, really worked up. Right.
Okay.
There was a touch of arrogance to it in the responses. Like, there's nothing.
Yeah, she was giving them that typical Nigerian arrogance. How dare you? Who are you?
Yeah, you know what I mean? So when you do that to especially with South Africans, I think are very loving people. But when you do that, then you make people start digging, and then people started digging, right? And unfortunately or fortunately, it turned out that her story is bigger than what people initially thought. So, first of all, back in the day in South Africa, if you are a single mother, you weren't allowed to enter the Miss South Africa beauty pageant. If you've been married, you weren't allowed to enter. But news came out that she was married like a few months ago. She got married to a Nigerian guy, right? That made people dig even more, right? And unfortunately, the digging uncovered that the ID that she has was acquired fraudulently.
Wait, Chidinma was married?
Yes.
No,
and she has a 10-year-old. Yeah, she has a 10-year-old daughter.
We're giving you the African gossip.
So, so obviously now people started calculating. If you're 23, right, and you have a 10-year-old daughter, you know what I mean? That means you were 13.
That means you're the baby at 13.
You know what I mean? So people were like, something's a little off here. People continued digging, right? So initially, the government said, look, there's evidence to suggest that this was acquired fraudulently. That's where it stopped, right? But they did more digging. And when they started digging more, they actually uncovered that in 1995, right, the person who calls himself Chidinma's mother, went to go pick up an ID that didn't belong to her. Okay. And on that ID, she registered Chidima.
Okay.
Now, when the person who actually owns the ID in the year 2001 tried to go and register their own child, they weren't able to, because they were told that this ID is actually someone, like some kids are already attached to this, like, and you're not the person that's attached to this.
Like your best entry.
So yeah, so now it's like, okay, a child was already registered under this ID by 2001. So now people are like, hang on, Chidima could actually be older than 23, right? And so her passport was canceled, her documents were canceled, but she was able to fly out of the country. Now, if she's a South African, the question is, how was she able to do that?
She used earpiece.
Does she have dual nationality?
You know, so South Africans are like, hang on a second as well. They were saying, hang on a second. We're pretty sure you said that you've never been to Nigeria. But after you landed in Nigeria, one of the first things you said was, you haven't been here in 20 years. Now people are like, hey, like things are not adding up. Things aren't adding up, right? So fine, she's gone to Nigeria, but the South Africans are not letting up. They're not letting up. And then it turns out while she's in Nigeria, so the government went to go look for her mother and her father, right? Both of her parents have since escaped. Last time her mom was saw at the airport. She was seen at the airport, right? She hasn't been seen since. The latest development is that the lady who's been saying that she is Chidima's mother is not actually her mother, it's a stepmother. Her real mother is in Nigeria. And yeah, it's a crazy story. So her real mother. So South African investigators, bro, like they found a photo of her mother, right? Like, and they were like that, you know, they found this lady. So that lady who's in South Africa, the Mozambican lady, is not actually her mother, but she's run away. No one knows what country she's at. There's no one at the address. Her father's nowhere to be found, and of course, she's in Nigeria. So now South Africans are saying, look, we've had an issue with people stealing identities. Like if you steal someone's identity, pretty much no life.
It's really I tried my best to explain some of this to some Nigerians that I know who were upset about the whole time. The funny thing is that none of them want to listen. Like when it comes to well, it's part of the questions we are going to ask later. So let me not jump into that. Let's just wait. Hopefully we'll get to those and we'll answer those. Anyway, to those who are joining us live, wondering what we are going to be talking about. We are going to be talking about Africa. Okay, we're going to talk about Africa, talking about crucial questions about Africa that I think and issues in Africa that needs to be discussed. And I'm not saying we are going to give an extensive discussion, cover everything and say everything that needs to be said, but we'll try our best and we'll give you our perspective. I have two Africans, right? I have two Africans. I have someone from Zimbabwe. I have someone from South Africa, and I'm from Nigeria. So we are going to be discussing Africa. I've been accused of not covering my continent, and today I am going to extensively cover every nook and cranny. Amen. Amen. That's what we are going to do today. So we are going to try to answer a couple of questions. The first question is, what does it mean to be African? And I want to start with Exotic. Exotic, what does it mean to be African?
I am from Zimbabwe, and there's a saying that we have that says "Mwana wevu." Like for me, being African means like being a child of the soil, and like being able to identify like with the soil, with the struggles of Africa, and also being able to look at Africa and just feel like you're at home. It doesn't matter which part of Africa you're in, whether you're in Nigeria, whether in South Africa, whether you're in Ghana, you just feel like you identify, you feel like you're at home. That's how I think being African means, if you know what I mean.
Okay. What about you, Melbourne? What does it mean to be African for you?
I think for me, and are you able to? Yeah, the Exotics thing was. I think that with the rise of globalization, right, what it means to be African has changed quite a bit, right? So what Exotic was saying, Wanawemvu, is like son of the soil or child of the soil, like in her language, right? And it went from us identifying Africa as just being this place for Black people, right? But you have to understand that as a South African, we have brand Mandela, right? The Mandela brand, right? The man who went to jail for 27 years came out and said, look, we're going to forgive the people who oppressed us, the white people, right? We're all a rainbow nation. That's what we're called in South Africa, a rainbow nation, right? So growing up, you go to school with people of all colors and creeds and religions. It's like living in America. Like that's normal as a South African, right? So when people ask what is African, right, in 2024, it's more about the experience, right? Like, because as an example, I have more in common with other South Africans of different races than I do with someone, say, as an example, someone from West Africa. I have more in common with South Africans, even though they might be different races, right? It's just a culture experience, like the South Africanness. I mean, even right now, you look online, there's a South African slogan that just caught on. No names RSA. Where did that come from? I don't know, but it's just caught on in South Africa. So it's not so much about how you look, but you know what, I guess what you really connect with, or where you were born or where your parents were born, but it's more than just, you know, like how you look.
Yeah, for me, what it means to be African is one of the questions that I really sometimes try to understand. You know, yeah, sometimes I sit down and I'm asking myself random questions, and this is one of the questions that come to mind. What does it really mean to be African? And to me, I see the identity, the African identity, as vague. I see the African identity as something that is alien to, especially we that live in places like West Africa. The African identity, if we are really honest with ourselves, especially we who live in West Africa, the identity is alien to us. It's weird to think that you really belong to a continent as opposed to belonging to a tribe. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Like in West Africa, what is more important to us is belonging to a tribe. Where are you? When somebody asks you in Africa, where are you from? They're not even asking which country you are from. They're asking, what is your tribe? So tribal identity is more realistic to us than what I will call continental identity. So on the continental level, it is very vague. For me, I am very sure that the average person who lives in, let's say, Nigeria, for example, does not think of himself much as an African, as much as they think of themselves as, let's say, an Igbo person, a Yoruba person, an Hausa person, or whatever tribe they come from. That is more real to them, and that's something that they remember often. I guess the only time they remember that they're Africans is when they leave Africa, when they go, let's say, to the West, and then all of a sudden we are Africans. Africans are who, you know. But as long as they are in Africa, they are an Igbo person. Even when they are in Nigeria, they don't think I'm a Nigerian. I am my tribe. So tribal identity for us is important. So what does it mean to be African? I think it is pretty vague. I think right now, what it means to be African, it depends on where you are from. It depends on which part of the continent you are from. If you are from West Africa, what it means to be African is what it was, you belonging to a tribe. What tribe do you come from? What African tribe do you come from? That's what it means for West Africans. If you are from the northern part of Africa, you can be Arab and still be African. You can be Jewish and still be African. You can be whatever Middle Eastern, will I call it, tribe or race, and still be African. You know, if you're in South Africa, it is a different story. You can be white and still be African, which is something that many Africans can still not wrestle. Believe me, there are many Africans that still cannot wrestle with they're still wrestling with the fact that you can be white and be African. It's still like, really, still like, no, it's not true. These people are coming to steal our identity, you know, stuff like that. And my response to that is always, but they gave you the identity. If you think about it, you never thought of yourself as an African, never. They were the ones who even told you are African. They gave the continent, and I don't think Africa is a word that my great-grandfather came up with. You know, we never had a name for the continent. You know, they are the ones who came and said, okay, with this continent, or whoever it is, I don't think it is me. I don't think it was people before me. I don't think it's people who look like me or from where I'm from that God gave. I don't know the history of the name, but it would be interesting to to find that out, and then we have the continent, and then we call ourselves what we call ourselves. So at the end of the day, I think being an African is dependent on so many things, and one of them is just for me as a West African is which tribe are you from? Like Exotic said, are you what part of the soil did you sprout out from? That's what it means
Can I
for.
say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I understand both of your points. I'm gonna go on your point at the beginning. You said there's no such thing as an image of an African or whatever the way that you put it. But if right now I was to ask you, draw me an African man, or draw me a man that's gonna represent, or a family that's going to represent Africa, right? You are not gonna draw me Caucasian people.
But you're assuming that, right? Because I'm from South Africa. Like that's literally what Frank is talking about. That some people just struggle with the idea of seeing white people as Africans. I would draw a Caucasian person because for me that makes sense. I don't think, like you heard when I was saying at the start, that I went to school with people of different races. To me, there's nothing wrong there. I see us as all being South African. That's just it. That's just it. I don't know any other reality. I just don't know a reality where African is just a black person. To me, it doesn't make any sense.
Nobody's saying Africa is just black person. See, I feel like that's when Africans, us as Africans, we do a disservice on what our ancestors went through and everything that they went through to fight for our own freedom, for us to be able to be here, to be educated the way that we are, right? I feel like we're doing a disservice when we say, for me, I don't mind African. Just why are you allowing your identity to just be so accessible to anyone and anyhow? I understand the African identity, there's more to it. The same way as Frank said, he is from Nigeria. There's Igbo, there's Yoruba, there's Hausa, there's different tribes within Nigeria. There's different tribes within Zimbabwe, there's different tribes within South Africa. All of that is part of your identity. It's a part of the they make the African identity. Those things where you belong, whether you're Zulu, whether you're Shona, whether you're Ndebele. Me as a Shona person, I am to protect my identity. I am to protect my culture and where I come from, but it's sacred to me. So
okay, let me ask you something, Exotic, just before you continue. Do you think Arabs are Africans?
There are Africans that identify as Arabs.
Okay, there are Africans that identify as Arabs. So you don't believe that? So you don't believe people in Tunisia, people in Morocco, people in
They are
Algeria
African. To me, they are Africans that identify as Arab.
That look as Arab as you can imagine. They're not black. These are not people who are black. Many of them will pass for Caucasians if you don't look closely. And you believe those people are not, they're Africans who you agree that they're African Arabs. They're African first, Arab second.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. But is that an image? Is that an image of Africa for you? Because I believe that your image of Africa is somebody who is black, but they are not black. So is that an image of African for you?
No, I am not saying that my image of Africa is someone black. I'm saying from where Nero is from, he's from Southern Africa. He cannot tell me, as much as he might try to argue with it, his granddad is probably a chief somewhere in the village somewhere, right? So he grew up around that rich black manawevu, kind of belief. So for him to tell me that his perception of a South African family is a Caucasian family, for me, I doubt that.
Well, here's the thing, right? So we as African people, we see like the national team in the UK. You're in the UK, and yet you probably look at the UK team with pride because it's got black people, it's got African people, and you don't see anything wrong with calling them British people, right? Now, all of a sudden, when you have a white person in Africa, you say that they're not African. They are just as African as everyone else. Now, when you say to me that I want to pretend like I this is not a reality. My first teacher in kindergarten was a white lady. I don't know what you want me to say. What do you want me to say? That's my reality. That's my reality. I'm telling you, Nelson Mandela, basically, when he came in, he said, look, we're forgiving everyone. Everyone was just supposed to be like, look, we're starting fresh. We just started fresh. And we're just like, we're just all a rainbow family, and we're just moving forward. Everyone else is on the outside trying to tell us that the people that we grew up with, the people that we know, our neighbors, the people that we love are not South African, are not African. That is a foreign concept to us. There's no way that anyone's going to convince us of that. There's just no way.
Yeah, and this is why I have said for a very long time that many African societies are very close. Like there's something she said. She said, "Why are you allowing people to?" This is not the word she exotic used, but I think you used the word like the African identity is becoming adulterated or something, or is becoming watered down. Like people are easily
accessible. Yeah,
people cannot
like
easily
diluted. Yeah.
easily, but we talk about people being able to easily access the European identity. You know, why shouldn't, like when you see a black footballer from France that is probably from Ghana or somewhere,
I've got
or
an answer for that.
Is it?
I've got an answer for that.
Okay, you do. Okay, but let me just finish the point I'm trying to make, which is that when you see somebody like that, you believe that person is British, is 100% British. That person is British. That person is French. That person is German. That person they should not see them as anything other than that. You know, if you whether they are even in Canada, the United States, wherever they are, that they belong there. They are Americans. They are Canadians. They are Australians. They are who that they are the embodiment of the identity of the place where they reside. Right? But when it comes to Africa, it's like a different story altogether. It's like you can stay, which is something I'm even saying it as somebody who knows that this is what happens in West Africa. You can be a white person, live here for 100 years, live in Lagos for 100 years. You are not a Lagosian.
Wow.
You are not
That's
a Nigerian. That is how they see, and that is how they, which is wrong. Like for me, I feel it is really wrong. Even as an Igbo person, who was born and raised in, which is one of the reasons why I left Lagos, by the way, which is one of the reasons I left Lagos. Because no matter how long I stay in Lagos, no matter how much I contribute to Lagos, Lagosians or people who are children of Eko, let me use that word, which is like the native, Lagos is not the native name for the place, for the region. It's called Eko. Children of Eko will always see you as an outsider. They will always see you as an outsider. You are not one of them. Wow. It's the same thing even in Nigeria. If you come from a different tribe and you live in a different in a different state, as long as you are not from that state, as long as that is not your state of origin, live there 100 years. You are not from there.
Wow.
When things get rough and when things are going bad, you have to return to your state of origin. That's why like Igbos always have this mentality of no matter where you are hustling, always bring something. Build your mansion in your father's house, you know, so that you can always. So imagine if I am treated as a Nigerian, I am treated like that in Nigeria. Now imagine if you're a white person, how they will treat you. They will love you, they will be hospitable towards you, but at the end of the day, you will know that you're not from there. And they're always going to, in one way or the other, remind you of that. And I don't think it's a good thing.
The weird thing, right, is that, like, as an example, right, in South Africa, you look at a lot of the traditional clothing, okay? Like, let's say the hat of the Basotho people, or the traditional patterns on the like blankets that the women, the men wrap around themselves, right? It's like we hold on so tightly to that, like this is ours, when in actuality, that pattern was actually introduced to South Africa by the Queen of England when she gave a gift to the king. You know what I mean? And then it became part of our culture. Now we fight for it tooth and nail, like it's ours, you know? And it's like, to be honest with you, like if you know who you are, you can speak your mother tongue, you know your history, you know your ancestors, you know your line, your bloodline, that thing. No one can really dilute who you are as a person. No one can tell you who you are. You know, you don't need these labels, you know, to know who you truly are.
Somebody in the comments.
Guys, can I say something? Because I feel like I'm listening to a conversation between two whitewashed Africans. Honestly, it's actually kind of hurting my brain. But let me sit up because okay, guys.
Go ahead, go for it. Tell us the thing you want to say.
First of all, the European identity should be able to be easily accessible to Africans. You understand? For
Because
the simple fact that they came to our land. They were hungry here. You guys forget something. They were damn hungry. There was nothing here, just snow. They were sailing, taking guns to India, bringing back spices. They were going to goddamn India. They accidentally stumbled upon a land that was rich, powerful, with beautiful, beautiful black men, beautiful black women, and food, guys, and food. You're forgetting that part.
These are alternative facts, bro.
I'm
Food.
telling you, that's not how it went down. The sailors
That's
that came,
exactly how it went down.
the sailors that came to Africa did not. That's not how,
That's exactly how it went
this,
down. Yeah, but no, but okay,
this
guys,
is a,
no, no, no.
this is a
Let me
very
let them.
interesting version of history that I didn't read about. Let me tell you, the first Europeans that came to, like, not the northern part of Africa, because the northern part of Africa has had relationship with Europe for a long period of time. Okay. There's been a long relationship between the northern part and Europe that predates, slavery and colonialism and all whatnot. So we are not talking about that. So let's talk about the West and the South. Okay. Before the first Europeans to come to Africa, we had the Portuguese, not even the British or the French. It was the Portuguese. They were the first to develop ships and have a thriving maritime industry, to be able to sail around the world. It was the Portuguese first, and they were the first to come to Africa, and they first came to West Africa, and they came to West Africa first, not as traders, but as missionaries. Funny, they didn't come because they were hungry. They didn't come because
they were hungry. No, guys, you didn't let me finish. We didn't let me finish. What I'm trying to say, Frank, let me land.
Okay, go ahead.
What I was trying to say is the reason why I personally think, this is my personal opinions, by the way, why
it's not
I
fact.
think that,
it's opinion.
yeah,
Okay.
it's not necessarily fact, really.
Okay.
But it's facts to me. So, like as I was saying, for me, I feel like based on everything that our ancestors went through under colonization, under European rule in Africa and things like that, and the
Can hear you.
artifacts that are in museums here in Europe that they've refused to return back to the countries that that own the artifacts. One, I feel like the European identity makes it so easy for me to acquire, for the simple fact that that history there that we're talking about, things that they've done, that makes it easy for me to come here. Because how many years? 400 years of slavery, right? That's 400 years of you removing a workforce in a certain community.
Okay,
So
let me ask.
How many years do I have left acquiring the European identity? I still got a good, 300 something years to go.
Okay, let me ask you this. Before the European slavery and European colonialism of Africa, before that you had Arab slavery. And I'm not talking of Arab slavery with Africans, but I'm talking about Arab slavery where they took Slavic people, right? Slavic people are Europeans, and they took them as slaves, right? So does that mean because there's this history of Arabs taking white people as slaves, therefore white people should be able to be, like, have easy access to Arab citizenship, like become citizens of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Egypt, and all whatnot? Do you think because of that history of slavery, they should be allowed access to? Because that's not happening. Because one thing you should know is the same way to be difficult for you to be accepted in a West African society is the same way to be difficult for you, regardless of your tribe, to be accepted in an Arab society, especially Arab societies in the Middle East. Like, it's difficult to get a Saudi Arabian citizenship. No matter how long you work there as an expert or whatever, you'll not be granted citizenship. You might be a resident there or whatever, but you will not be a citizen. The same thing with the UAE, the same thing with Qatar, and these places are Arab territories, and these places engaged in Arab slavery, right? Or the Arab slave trade. So why is it that this applies only to Europe and does not apply to the Arab world? Also, when you consider the fact that Arabs also took black people as slaves, right? then doesn't that mean that somebody from Nigeria should have easy access to Egyptian citizenship? But that's not
Why?
the case.
Why? Okay. Then
Yeah.
I've got a question for
Right.
your question. Why do you
Okay.
guys like to justify, European slavery or the shipment of people from different parts of the world into Europe to build Europe? Why do you guys like to justify that using the Arab slave trade?
We
Yeah.
are not. I'm not trying to
Can I answer
justify.
this?
Yeah, go ahead. Go
Because
ahead.
no, we're talking about a
Frank, I
European
think
problem right now.
we.
Why do we need to
Mhm.
bring back the Arab problem? Let's deal with the Arab problem when we get to the Arab problem. Right now, we're
No.
talking about the white problem. Why was it wrong?
I think exotic. What the issue is here is that for a very long time, right, the way in which history is told is that it was just the Europeans, right? They came to Africa, they decimated Africa. You're right, and it's their fault that we're in this mess that we're in, right? However, before they even thought about bringing slavery to our shores, the Arabs are doing it and they did it better. I mean, we're not even going to talk about the fact that we did it to ourselves as well, right? But the
Mhm.
Arabs did it for longer, right? And not just that, right? But they also brought a religion as well. So they pretty much did a similar thing to what the Europeans did, right? But it's almost like Christianity when Christianity has a 2.0. It has the New Testament, right? Where it's
Mhm.
almost like it cleans up the Old Testament, right? And with the Europeans, it's like the British, right? Yeah, they benefited, but then also they kind of stopped the boats, right? They played a significant role in stopping slavery, right? And yet
Mhm.
the Arab world, not just they didn't just have the longest slave trade, right? But they kept
Mhm.
going right up until the 60s, right?
Mhm.
It was Britain and the Europeans that had to tell them, hey, you guys need to stop. But even then, in 2024, they still have the kafala system, which is
Mhm.
very, very similar. And some people would actually argue that they actually do still practice slavery. So I guess exotic. What I'm trying to say is that we've realized that we've been duped, right? All this time we've been looking here, saying European, European, and then we realize that hang on, these people as well. We don't know why we
Mhm.
didn't notice this, but they are problematic as well, and we kind of missed it because their skin complexion is almost as close to ours, right?
Mm.
So we kind of almost missed it. I think that's one of the reasons, but I don't know. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, yeah. For me, it's not like a question of justification. Nobody is. I don't think anybody in their right mind in 2024 will ever justify slavery. Slavery is a horrible thing. Okay, it's horrible. It's something that shouldn't have happened but it happened for a very long time, and we did it for a very long time. We did it to each other. It turns out that human nature has this tendency to want to enslave. Humans have this tendency to want to enslave their fellow human. Okay, the problem with slavery and how it is being discussed is of course the one-sided conversation where it looks like it's only one set of people who are engaged in slavery, which is the Europeans, and everybody forget every other group who have done it. Like it was something that is universal. Slavery was universal, and we don't talk about the universality of it. And then there's always the racial element of European slavery that people want to highlight, like the slavery of Arabs doesn't have any racial undertone towards it, which is weird because Arabs did not enslave other Arabs. They enslaved mostly non-Arabs. But that's another conversation. The point at the end of the day, exotic, is that when we talk about slavery, we need to look at it holistically. And when you use slavery to justify something, don't justify it in one aspect and not also ask for it in another aspect. That's essentially what I'm trying to say. You say the reason why European citizenship should be easily accessible to any person from Africa is because we were uh, taken as slaves and we were colonized. And I'm like, okay, but the Arabs did the same thing and we don't have easy access to their own citizenship. Why is that the basis? Also, I think it is not a good argument to say because of atrocities that has happened in the past, therefore in the present something should this is what a society should do in the present to make up for what happened in the past, which they did not do. Their society did not do. In fact, their society tried to end. It's weird for me. Like, oh, Europeans should have. See, I admire the European society and the fact that citizenship in Europe is easily accessible, and that the West in general is a very open society. Even a place like Poland is still more open than Lagos, But the West in general is a
Wow.
very, yeah, is a very. I see what I highlighted there. This is somebody saying, "I am a Yoruba person." As a Yoruba person, she's from the same tribe as another Lagosian. That's why she has to highlight, I'm a Yoruba person. I'm from the same tribe as somebody who is from Eko, but they will not see me as part of that, sub tribe or part of that sub region, even if I live there all my life. It's the same thing here. The place I live in the eastern part of Nigeria, it's not my state of origin. And at the end of the day, as much as I can live here and roll with people, we speak Igbo, we talk, we are friends and all whatnot. At the end of the day, this is not my homeland. This is not where I'm from. That is how, the truth is, that is how most people in West Africa see their like the attachment identity in West Africa. I don't know if this applies to all of Africa, but I'm just going to speak as a West African. For the most part, identity in West Africa is attached to land. That's something people don't understand. Is attached to land. When when somebody in Nigeria asks you, where are you from? He's not asking, where do you live? He's not asking, where were you raised? He's asking, which land holds your identity?
Wow.
But guys, okay, guys. When
and I want to say
in
something
Africa,
to you, Exotic, when you're done.
Okay.
Because I've just noticed something.
So modern, when you're in Africa, right? And I don't know about you, Frank, but I know for sure modern. People like hear me when we're back home in Southern Africa, right? There's somewhere where we go, which is our village. And majority of the time in your village, you have land, like acres and acres and acres of land that belongs to your family, that is passed down generations after generations after generations, right? Right. As far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't know about West Africa, but as far as I'm concerned, during the wars that were fought after colonization, or the wars that were fought in order to end colonization, some people that fought in these armies, which was the British Army or whichever army was, or Zimbabwe or Rhodesia at the time, right? These people were given some of these pieces of land. Or some of these people were given these as like their reward for fighting, or some of these people were given places in government. They're the same people that are still fighting government right now. They're the people that have been saying get out for the past however many years. They're the same war vets, right, that own these pieces of land. They're the same war vets that are owning the government. So they don't just own the government, they also own the country because they own the ground. So when those people so I'm sorry. So I wanted to ask Frank, I don't know if that's the same thing in Nigeria, but does it matter who is in charge at the time, whether it's a Igbo president or a Hausa president or a Yoruba president?
That's not the claim to land. That's not the claim. The claim to land in Nigeria, especially Nigeria, goes way before colonialism. It's way before. Even during colonialism, the British authority had to recognize and really recognize our our traditional land ownership laws and rights. Like they could not ignore it because they knew it was going to bring serious problem and serious tension. In fact, the people who tried to undermine our traditional way of owning land, funny enough, was the Nigerian government after independence. This is the funny thing. Like when you think about it, because the Land Use Act, which was the first act that had regulated land ownership in Nigeria, was an act that was drawn by the Nigerian government about 20 to 15 years after independence. It was not drawn by the British. The British recognized how we lay claim to land and how we transfer ownership of land. They recognized it. And they were like, yeah, we are going to recognize that custom and we are not going to do anything to it. It was the Nigerian government that came and said, what? Which custom? We are going to get rid of that. And then they created the Land Use Act and said every land in the country is vested in the state governor. And then the state governor, that's why in Nigeria, the state governor can seize your land and tell you, yeah, we are taking it. What are you going to do about it? Although they don't do it, but they have the power to do it. And in some instances, they do it, But for the most part, how Nigerians claim, like how land is being transferred is through like the traditional means. Like you go to a family, you have to settle the family, you have to settle certain people in the village and stuff. Like even when I wanted to purchase one, I had to go through. You even have to go to the like the Igwe or the king, whatever it is called in that tribe, and everything you have to do it the traditional means. If not, that land is not your land. So that's how it is done over here.
But I mean, I heard in Nigeria, only 5% of people actually have the titles. So some people say they own the land, but they don't own the titles. I actually checked, which is very interesting, right? Because one of the things that a lot of Nigerians say.
Sorry, the title you are referring to is I don't really like. There are many documents when you want to own land in Nigeria. There are many documents. There's the ones you get from the traditional, like people in the like traditional documents, right? That one gives you some kind of right over the land, but it's not the title. The title you get from the state registry or when you go to get a certificate of occupancy. And many people don't do that for good reasons. Like your legal claim to your land, Nigerian land use laws are ridiculous. Just know they are ridiculous. If your land gets registered and you get a C of O, it reduces the rights you have over the land. It's a good thing and it's also a bad thing. Like even lawyers in Nigeria will tell you, don't get the C of O. You don't need it.
What is?
Don't get
I see
certificate of
what is that? Okay,
certificate.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you have the certificate of occupancy, it reduces, and you have to renew it every 100 years. But still, just it's better not to have it. Lawyers will tell you. Just the tradition. They even when we were taught in school, is that the traditional title you own to your land, for the most part, is more weighty than the government issued title. Yeah.
Okay, but what I was going to say is that I think exotic, right? The reason I think she has the views that she has is because of where she's from, Zimbabwe, right? So Robert Mugabe absolutely, he messed up the country, right? So people are out here bragging that they have land, right? They bragging they have land, but they don't have any food, right?
Yeah,
what was the point?
Whenever I got TikTok, I'm like, this lady is from Zimbabwe.
What do you mean we don't have food?
Like, what I don't understand is that they literally, right, were like, South Africa, let's show you how it's done. So they took all the land, but then it's like, all right, they got all the land. And in fact, last year, they were begging people, like the British people, to come back to Zimbabwe, saying that they'll pay them. I mean, that's
really...
Yes, this is crazy. I mean, come on, man. Come on.
African countries that have like a significant Western population or white population, they don't know what God has done for them. I'll tell you the truth. Like, you don't know what God has done.
No, guys, on the African question, I think the reason why I might come so strong against other people that don't look traditionally African, stereotypically African, whichever one. I think for me, it's like the culture appropriation thing. For me, I don't like when I see other people benefit from something that should benefit me. That's gonna sound so bad, but that's something that should benefit a certain set of people, but it benefits other people, and they only use it for that specific benefit. In any other forms, they don't understand the struggles of being that thing. The only thing they understand is the positive side of that thing. So I'm like, you can't truly identify with that thing if you cannot truly be, get in the paint, but at the same time also enjoy the fruits of the labor.
You know what is interesting? Do you know what is interesting about everything you just said? If a white person in Britain says the same thing you just said, he will be tagged a far right extremist. The same thing you just said now. If a white person said being British, it means to be white, and people should not just be easily, people should not just easily become British citizens. And we need to have like a rather close society, and the British people should be free, and they should, we are Brits and we have our culture and we have our history, and it's not just people are trying to adulterate or make it easily accessible. The moment they start saying this, you see CNN, far right thugs. BBC, far right radicals. Which other one? Channel 4 News. Like, people that are like next door to Hitler are taken to the streets. I'm telling you, it's so funny.
Frank, it's not the same.
Okay.
You're the reason why it's not the same.
Tell us. You're there.
Yeah, there. You live in the UK. Tell us.
The reason why it's not the same is the person that's going out to riot against people taking their jobs, people not being British, people not being able to get British. These are criminals. Some of these people haven't worked for 50 years. They don't know what it feels like to work. The reason why they survive is because people like me, those immigrants that they don't want here, are the ones that are going to work, and then we pay tax, and then they're given universal credit. And
The same thing
so for
goes, the same
no,
thing
so
goes
when I
to
say no,
British
it's not
migrants
the same.
in Africa. You think they don't work? You think the white people in Africa don't work? You think they are lazy? You think they're not doing anything? You think they don't boost the economy? You think they don't come with their investments and stuff? You think they just come and they're like, is there any African country that is really like, apart from South Africa, but is there any other African country that is like dishing out benefits? Like, oh, come and we'll give you financial benefits. Name one. Nigeria does not give benefits. There is no benefit. If you're a migrant from the United States coming to, or from wherever coming to Nigeria, you're going to work your butt off. You are not going to be handed nothing, because Nigeria is not handing nothing to nobody. It's not happening.
But you see,
you are making a huge sacrifice. Yet you can do all of that. You can do all of that. Work 50 years in this country. Spend your years and tears and everything in this country to set up a business or whatever, and you will still not be seen as a Nigerian.
Exotic benefited. She benefited. They benefited from the British, right? They just weren't smart enough to capitalize, right? So I mean, they went from breadbasket to basket case. I mean, like, bro, like it's
the South African Zimbabwe beef. Thank God we are not even talking about the South African Nigerian beef. Let's not
bro. Like, come on, bro.
Beefing. Every
bro, nah. But like I said, like when it comes to South Africa, right? I think South Africa, we were very fortunate to have someone like Mandela, because he could have actually just said, he could have just done what Mugabe did. He could have said, no, we're gonna kick everyone out. Right. And it would have been a mess. And the reason why it was going to be a mess is because people in South Africa were able to really thrive because they weren't supporting the entire country. You know, the services were for the minority most of the time, you know. But now the infrastructure that was built is supposed to support a larger populace, right? Which is why there's still such a disparity between the haves and the have-nots in South Africa, you know. But I think compared to other countries, it's definitely doing a lot better.
Somebody, King of Coin, said I should explain I should tell you for the story about Ghana Must Go. Are you guys familiar with the Ghana Must Go story in Nigeria?
Yes, with those the bags that became famous.
The bag came from a story. There's a story behind the name. Do you guys want to hear the story? Okay, this is what happened.
Yeah, say it. We want to.
Okay, so the Ghanaian economy was terrible. The Ghanaian, back in the day, I've forgotten what year this was, but back in the day, the Ghanaian economy was bad. It was horrible. Things were not going well for Ghanaians, right? And the Ghanaians, we are coming in droves to Nigeria. We are coming in droves, and we are taking up jobs, like jobs that a Nigerian will not do for, let's say, 100 naira. A Ghanaian would do it for like 20 naira, and they were too many. They were too many. And the Nigerians were like, no, this is too much. We can't have this. And the people started complaining, and the government was like, yeah, Ghana must go. Wow. So yes, so a policy was put in place to deport all the Ghanaians, send them back to Ghana. And then the Ghanaians were like, we don't have a luggage to carry our property. The Nigerian government said, don't worry, we'll sew one for you.
Wow.
Petty. And kick them out of Nigeria. If you do that in Europe, that would be a major controversy. I'm telling you, that would be. Imagine the level of controversy if you do that in Europe. Just imagine if you say, you know what, we are bundling all the African migrants in Britain right now. You don't have bag, we'll sew a makeshift bag for you and send you back to your country. Just imagine the opera. Just imagine the scandal. Imagine how it will be perceived. This will be Hitler 2.0 for so many people. But I'm just telling you how often this happens in Africa, and nobody talks about it. It's normal. It's like, oh, what do you expect us to do? Kind of situation. I don't know if you understand. But if it happens in the West, it's like, Jesus Christ, what just happened? You know, I'm just saying.
The Nigerian hypocrisy is amazing because I don't know if you saw this on Twitter. I don't know if you are on Twitter, but there's a a photo of these girls, right? They are what people call, I guess, cis females, cis girls, whatever it's called, right? And they've
Mm-hmm.
put like a cucumber down their pants, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they're saying like, oh hey, we're trans girls, but they're not. They're not trans girls. They're
Mm-hmm.
biological. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it's called, man. All this is very confusing, right? But then in
Mm-hmm.
the comment section, right, trans women are saying to them like, hey, my body is not your costume. Like,
Mm.
stop pretending that you have, like like a male genitalia, like that. And people are just
Mm-hmm.
saying like the hypocrisy for a trans woman to tell a biological woman, my body is not your costume, right? And not actually realizing the irony in it, right? It's the same thing as
Yeah.
this this pageant thing, right? With Nigeria literally fighting fighting people. But this is different because with this Chidima thing, there's a very serious crime that potentially could have been committed,
Mm-hmm.
right? And yet, there's no way you could tell Nigerians about Ghana must go, because I mean, if they really knew
It's,
that, they wouldn't be saying anything.
see, this is the truth. The truth about Africans, we are very hypocritical. Very, very. I think hypocrisy is like part of our. And I
DNA.
know exotic could be like, I'm listening to two white people talk right now, but it's true. We are very, very, very hypocritical. Very hypocritical. Extremely hypocritical. What we are accusing you of doing is what we, when you remember when you told me asked me about the what is going on in South Africa, and what was my reply? My reply was, yeah, if he's in Nigeria, we will not allow her to compete. That's
Well,
what I
then,
said.
yeah,
I didn't even
yeah,
think twice about it. I was like, if this was happening in Nigeria, we will not allow her to compete. She would not, she won't. She won't. A
yeah.
South African sounding name competing in a Miss Nigeria, no, it will not happen. It won't even happen. It can't happen. You can't even have somebody bearing
Wow.
Chinenye representing Kano State or Kwara State. Talk more, even though
Wow.
that person has lived in Kwara or Kaduna all their life, born and raised. The
Wow,
level of
bro.
tribalism that I faced growing up in Lagos is something that I was like, it's one of the many reasons I left Lagos. Like one of the many reasons why when I talk about Lagos like I hate the place. But it's a great place to be. But I talk about it like I hate the place because, and the funny thing is, even while I'm criticizing Lagos, Lagos is more hospitable than Eastern Nigeria when it comes to accepting people who are not from the East. It's hard for you to find an Eastern state that has a vibrant Yoruba population, just like you have a vibrant Igbo population in Lagos. It's hard. But you will see
Wow.
Igbos criticize Yorubas and say they are not hospitable, they don't welcome us. And I'm like, how many Yorubas do you have in your village? No, tell me, how many Yorubas do you have in your village? Will you even sell your father's land to a Yoruba person? Tell me the truth. But they will go to the West and be like, do you see how these Yorubas are behaving? I'm like, we have this problem. Which is the second thing I wanted to ask, and we've already like gone into it. Which is there tribalism in Africa? And I'm like, the answer is yes. There is huge tribalism in Africa, like very huge tribalism in Africa. And I don't know how we can fix it, but we have the issue of tribalism.
I
But
think Africa became tribalistic due to people settling down. I think when people were still nomadic, there wasn't really an issue of tribalism because they were moving around, they were meeting different people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as you guys always say to me, you blame colonization and everything, I think that
Mm-hmm.
also played a big part. I think for the first time, that's when, I'm not saying that there wasn't already differences between tribes prior to colonization, but I
Mm-hmm.
think that that was the first time that it really highlighted it. And then post colonization, now there was a big power vacuum between
Mm-hmm.
certain tribes, and that caused a lot of genocides, a lot of civil wars, some of them that are still happening to today, you know.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? What do you think, modern man, about tribalism in Africa?
look, what I was going to actually ask Frank is, I don't understand. So why are you so, I speak almost as if like you're some sort of alien, but why are you so different, right? Because it's like I will say that there's someone in my life, right, who is they're Nigerian as well, right? It's not like a partner or anything like that, but very, very close. And they strike me as South African. They just so like there's no way I can think. And you're the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when I have a conversation with you, it's almost there's a bit of like cognitive dissonance. Like my mind doesn't want to accept that you're Nigerian. I know you are, right? I know you are, but why are you able to approach the topic in such a way where you can criticize yourself openly and you can, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know, but I struggle to understand why Nigerians like yourself are so far and few between. Like this doesn't help. It's kind of like, like when someone is a Muslim, right? Then they openly talk about the problematic things in the Quran or the Hadiths, and they're like, man, this is bad. It's rare, right? So it's like even the things that you've shared here, I bet Nigerians feel like you're a backstabber, like you're sharing information with the enemy. You know what I mean?
Here's the thing. First of all, is that I will be lying if I say I'm the only one who like thinks that way. There are many people in recent times who raise these issues and raises this question. Now, how the public react to the question is a different story. But there are Africans and Nigerians who are like, let's ask this question. Let's ask ourselves this. I remember when I was in school, even when I was in the university, amongst like you have study groups and you have classmates, and these are like questions you have to like we get to wrestle with, and you realize at the end of the conversation that this thing is not going to go away anytime soon.
But Frank, I've got a question for you.
All right, go ahead.
If you're coming from a family where your dad, I don't know, is probably the vice president, or I don't know, the next of whatever, right? You own the Igwe of whatever tribe, right? Would you feel this strongly about the state of Nigeria? Do you think you'd still feel this strongly?
I believe I would. Okay, first of all, kingship in Igbo land is kind of tricky, but let me not go into that. Everybody in Igbo land somehow a king is a king in his own father's house in a way. So, but beyond that, this is a view that I've always had, and I think I'll always have, because and I had it because I grew up in Lagos. I had this because I grew up in Lagos, and I saw how Lagosians treated people who were not Lagosians, and it always bothered me. Like, why is it that somebody will live here, spend a lot of time here, is willing to become a part? Like, there are Igbo people who know how to speak Yoruba so fluently than many people who were born Yorubas. They are like, you cannot even tell the difference at this point. Like, it looks so Yoruba. Like, you'll be like, this person is a Yoruba person. Yet, they still face the same thing. So it's like this person has even like assimilated. This person is now fully a Yoruba person. Yet he or she will never be seen. Like, it begins to, at one point, you begin to be like, why is this the case? Why is this the case? Even when you marry into that, even when you marry into that tribe, they will still see your partner as an outsider.
What?
So yeah, you when you grow up like that, when you see that, you have to ask yourself.
I don't know why, but I like it.
You said?
I like it.
Thank you.
Oh,
you are looking for spouse. I'm available.
Let's make it happen.
But the tribalism issue in Africa, and why it is there. There are people who said because of colonialism. Now, the truth is, colonialism exploited tribalism. Yes, it exploited it, because the way the British ruled in Africa, especially in West Africa, was divide and rule. Divide and rule. When they are divided, you can be able to take advantage of the division. But I don't think they created it.
No,
I don't think
they
didn't create the tribalism. They exploited it. They used it to their advantage, but I don't think they created it. And yes, you can say their exploitation of tribalism increased it to a huge extent. But for the most part, the reason why we are very tribal is because we've always existed in tribes. That is the reason why we are very tribal in Africa, because we didn't have kingdoms. Yes, there are some parts of Africa that had kingdoms. Like, you have the Mali Empire, you have the Ashanti Empire, you have like the Kushites in Sudan, you have Ethiopian, the empires. There are parts, but other parts of Africa, like West Africa, some parts of West Africa down to the south, just lived in tribes. And even when you say, "Oh, but Africans, we are nomadic," yeah, they were moving as tribes. Even when they were nomads, they were not moving like, "Hey, join our moving train wherever you are. We are on a moving train. Join us. This is for whoever wants to be part of." No, they had a way you can join the tribe that is moving from one place to another. So when you have a society that has existed for a very long time as tribes, and then you bring them together and say you now have to live in a country and you have to live as one. Like, okay, one. Like there's a question someone asks. They're like, why can't Africans have their indigenous language as their official language? And in Nigeria, if you propose that, the next question is, okay, so which language exactly will be the official language? Is it Igbo, Yoruba? Is it Hausa? Which one? Which one exactly? Because you're not going to force that guy's language. You're not going to make
Nigeria's? I'm so confused.
You won't force me to speak it. You will not force me. I will rather speak English, but you will not force me. That guy's language. No. Which one is going to be the official? Explain to me which one. That will be the next. So I'm like, yeah, let us keep speaking the English. Just let us keep speaking that English. Anyway, Nigeria does not have an official language. We have a lingua franca, but we don't have an official. There is no officially, like, you don't see in any law that this is the official language of the government or the official language. We just have a lingua, like something that is commonly spoken.
So what's lingua franca?
But that's a good thing. Different in regions? I don't understand why that's such a bad thing.
Well, I again, the hypocrisy, right? The sheer hypocrisy of, I'm sorry, Frank, you're gonna catch strays here, right? The sheer hypocrisy of people who don't even have their own language as a national language, as recognized in the country, coming for South Africa and saying that South Africans are loyal to their masters, where in South Africa you can get taught in every single language. There are official languages. You turn on the news.
Languages, hang on a second.
But let me just say, right? So, the 11 tribes, right? You watch the news in all the different languages, right? You can go to school and learn all the different languages, right? So, if you want to do, like, as an example, why Orania? I don't know if you guys ever heard of Orania, like it's like a plot of land in South Africa where white people they basically just live in private land, right? And the reason why they started that is they wanted the right to self-determination. They want to be able to have their own universities where they can teach in Afrikaans, right? So they're basically creating a community where their lingua franca is Afrikaans. You get what I'm saying? But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that within South Africa, right, we are so united that by the time you're like 4 or 5 years old, you can already speak like 4 languages, right? And so we all communicate. It's like there's no such thing as a South African who just speaks one language, which is another reason why Chidima stood out. She was just speaking English.
Yeah,
right. That is not a South African trait. That is not a South African trait at all. Like, you mix it with vernacular a little bit here and there.
So yeah. But Exotic, what do you think about tribalism in Africa? Is Africa a tribalistic society?
It is a tribalistic society, and it should be a tribalistic society.
Okay,
it's designed to be that way.
We have a far right extremist. What country you don't mind?
Yeah, I believe it is designed that way. There is in no history of Africa up until, like we always say, colonization, have we ever seen real life democracy, or the democracy that they're introducing to us as it is. Africans have always moved in tribes, always moved from one to the other. You would marry to the next tribe, you would settle with wealth, like things that we're talking about, land, livestock, things like that. That's how we've always lived. We've always been traditional. So I don't really necessarily see anything negative with Africans that understand their own culture, and that understand their own tribe. I don't have a problem with them being tribalistic, as long as they understand what they're being, or what they're protecting, or what they're being tribal about.
Okay. Okay. So another quick question. I want us to just let people know. Like, everybody already knows who watched my live stream. That I'm an Igbo person. I'm from the Igbo tribe, right? Which tribe are you from? Exotic. Which tribe in Zimbabwe? Or do you don't have tribes in Zimbabwe? You guys are just Zimbabweans.
So I'm actually from both the two main tribes. So my mother is Shona, my father is Ndebele, but I grew
Okay.
up in a Shona tribe.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So do you like how does it work in Zimbabwe? If you both parents are from different tribe, which tribe will you take after the tribe of your mother or your father? Is it maternal or is it
You
paternal?
take you're meant to take your father's identity.
Okay, so that means you are what's the one you're from now? That's
So
Shona or
Shona.
so technically
Shona.
I'm Ndebele because that's my father, but my mother is Shona, and I was raised by my mother's side.
oh okay.
Yeah.
What about look at the
I'll tell you
eyes
why
that
I'm making that face. I'll tell you why I'm making that face, Frank. So in South Africa, we always have this beef with Zimbabweans. Like they just never want to say Shona. They always got to like put one foot in South Africa, right? So Ndebele, right, is is Zulu, right? Is Zulu, right? So they're never proudly Zimbabwean. I'm yet to meet one person who just says, you know what, I'm Shona. I swear,
Me, I'm a
all of
very
them.
proud
Just one
Shona. I
grandmother,
am a
at
Shona.
least one grandmother or grandfather is from South Africa is in Ndebele. I promise, I've never heard of Zimbabwean who's just proudly Zimbabwe. But you know what? It is what
And
it
you know
is.
what? And you know what?
I just
Modern,
think
yeah.
that I
And
just think you guys
modern.
should have a little bit more pride. If I was from Zimbabwe, I'm telling you, I will talk everyone's ear off. I'll let you guys know. I'll speak Shona during this live, right? But the thing is, with I think first to answer what you were asking, Frank, about
okay.
tribal. I think the idea of a tribe is changing, right? And
Okay.
it's moving away from identity and how we look, and it's moving
Mm,
towards values, right?
mm,
And culture,
mm,
right? So if you have a look as an example,
mm,
people are they're becoming so polarized, and it's
mm,
according to the values, right? So if you have a look at
mm,
America, right, it's the Trump camp versus the Harris camp, right?
it's true.
If you have a look at the UK, it's the anti-migrants versus or you can say the pro-British versus pro-immigrant,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
It's like very sort of marginalized, but along values rather than sort of like how we look. And I think with the increasing globalization, that's just the way that it's going to look, right? You're going to want to be around people that share the
mm,
same values as you, right? As an
mm-hmm,
example, you can see, especially in the UK, a lot of people are complaining about Islam because they say that they feel it's not compatible with the West. So it's not about
mm,
that a person looks a particular way, because you have a lot of white British people who practice Islam.
mm,
People are still
mm,
saying, no, this value system here is not
yeah.
compatible with this culture. They don't mesh.
Mm,
You get what I
mm,
mean? So I
mm.
think that's where you're definitely moving away from that
Yeah,
type of
but
tribe.
what
And
is
to
your tribe again? Maybe I didn't get it when you said it.
no, I was just about to say it. Yeah. So the tribe that I am, right, is basically the umbrella, right, is Basotho, right?
Okay.
Under the umbrella of Basotho, right, there is Tswana,
Mm-hmm.
right, which is
Mm-hmm.
Botswana. That's the language they speak in Botswana, right? So they're the
Mm-hmm.
same tribe as me, right? There is Sesotho, which is
Mm-hmm.
like literally the other country inside of South Africa, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there is Sepedi, also known as Northern Sesotho, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of us, that's one tribe under there. But
Wow.
so yeah, so Pedi, Tswana, Sotho,
Mm,
they're like basically sub tribes or sub clans
mm.
under the Basotho umbrella, but obviously fall under Basotho.
Oh, interesting, interesting. We have similar. There's somebody who was trying to who tried to correct me. And I think yeah, she's right. She said that's not true because I was talking about how Africans lived in tribes. I'm a Yoruba. I am Yoruba, like I said before. Like I said before colonialism, we never identified ourselves by our tribes, but by our domain land. So we have the. She listed all the tribes. Uh,
Mm,
Yeah, you're right. But if you remember something that I said we in Africa there were places that had empires, that had kingdoms, right? And I think the Yoruba land is one of those places, right? You had the Oyo Empire. You should remember you had the Oyo Empire, and the Oyo Empire was predominantly all what is now known as the Yoruba states in modern day Nigeria. So yeah, you have the Oyo Empire, and the Oyo Empire included all these states. So except for those places like in the east, in the eastern, also like in the Benin, you have like the Benin Empire. But in other parts of Africa, especially when you go towards the south and you go towards the east, we didn't have empires like that. We just had tribes. We had tribal settlements, and that's how we probably lived for a very long time. I don't know how long, but all we had in the eastern part of and the south side part of the country is just tribes. We didn't have empires like that. And then you had leader of the tribe, or how the tribes,
Do you know, I
organized
wanted to
themselves.
say something on what
Yeah.
Morden was saying about the Shona people not wanting to fully take the Shona identity or whatever
Yeah,
the way he was
because of
saying
how
it.
much pride people have in it.
Yeah, I think there is a very misconception when it comes to a lot of people, because a lot of people will have a Shona name and a Ndebele name. Second name, that is, like family name. And a lot of people forget something. So for example, I can speak for my family. So in
Okay.
my family, I think there is 5 different second names that me and all my cousins use. So none of us
Mm-hmm.
got the same second name,
Okay.
right? And as far as I'm aware, there's a lot of Ndebele people that they were stripped their names away from them
Mm.
and they were given Shona names.
Stripping.
Yeah, they were stripped their names off during, during the
Mm.
war. I wouldn't know personally exactly how we went because I wasn't there. But I'm just saying that there is so many, for me, for my country, as far as I'm concerned, there's people with so many names. And they're mixed. Some of them are Ndebele, some of them are Shona, some of them are Venda.
I hear you,
Mm-hmm.
exotic. I hear you, but honestly, I'm just telling you the truth. Ask any South African about Zimbabweans. Any time, and the only time, like, it's like everyone, like Zimbabweans and South Africans till a South African shows up. I'm sorry, but you know what I mean. It's like I've had people here in Australia tell me I'm not South African. Like, what are you talking about? Right? Like, what are you talking about? Like, because they got so comfortable calling themselves. And honestly speaking, it's really not that big of a deal. It's not like we own these
No,
countries,
no, the
right? It's
Shona,
like, literally, like, I can't take South Africa with me when I go. It's literally
no,
just, you
sorry,
know what I
there's a
mean?
question here. So the Shona colonized Ndebele. No, 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 no. There was no colonization of any other tribe. What happened was Gukrawundi. Gukrawundi happened after colonization, where there was a power vacuum, and the Shonas went and they massacred some
Ah,
Ndebeles. They did some terrible things, guys. It was
some.
bad. It was bad. And unfortunately, I wouldn't know, but there's still issues till today of of
Big
that.
time. So, as an example, exotic. Let me ask you, what do you think about? I don't know if you're following the Miss South Africa. What do you think about our winner? Do you like her, Mia LaRue, like for South Africa? Exotic,
No,
are
I
you still
don't
there?
like her for South Africa. I like it.
Why?
I like her for the political statement that South Africa is trying to
With a white lady?
to put out. Listen, do you know what is? If you can't beat them, you must well join them in it. I understand what
Okay.
they're trying to do.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this, right? Because yeah, why didn't I hear you say anything? Like I have you on social. I didn't hear you say anything when Zimbabwe voted in a white Miss Zimbabwe. What's up with that?
No, I did scream. I didn't like it.
You didn't scream, exotic. I
I
didn't hear a
did.
word from you.
I did. You're just not following.
I said it's that hypocrisy. There's the African hypocrisy, right? Like when you guys have a white Miss Zimbabwe, you guys were proud of her. Like, yo, we got British people
You
here
find
as
this
well.
everywhere.
You know what I mean?
You
No, but
Right? And
like
all of a sudden,
no, but more than me, I've never been proud of
yeah,
having
I know.
I'm not like that, and I'm never gonna be like that. I'm not a hypocrite, but I understand that some of these people are just so goddamn whitewashed. I'm just not one of them, unfortunately.
Yeah, we obviously I am whitewashed, looking very black, but it happens. It
I
happens.
don't know.
Anyway,
Sometimes
there's a couple of things. I think people in the chat have corrected me, and I checked, and I stand corrected. in the eastern, not eastern, but in the southern part, we had kingdoms in the southern part. It's weird. Now that I'm thinking about it, it looks like it's only in the east that we didn't have kingdoms. And nobody should tell me in the chat about the Onisha king. That is not a kingdom. That thing is made up. I am telling you now, as only Igbo, that thing is made up. That, hey, we had the Obi of Onisha. That's the Obi of Onisha. That thing is made up. It's not real. It's a joke. Anyways, but yeah, I stand corrected. We had like 2 kingdoms, I think was mentioned. That is the 2 kingdoms in the southern part of Nigeria. But I don't think we had kingdoms in Igbo land. We did not. We lived in tribes here. Okay? Very tribal.
I would like to learn Igbo.
We are very unique. There's something said among the Igbos that an Igbo man does not have a king. That's one of the things we pride ourselves about. That's why I said kingship. Actually, it was the Europeans that came, saw that we didn't have a king. Then they instituted what we call service chiefs. And the service chiefs, they were not there to represent the Igbos. They were there to represent the colonial government. That was it. And they were very corrupt. In fact, the average Igbo man did not respect the service chief. They saw them as, these people who are you? How did you get your authority? Some white man told you that you're not in charge. You believe that you are in charge. As in, there was no right. In fact, it was something that did not even last long. They had to stop using service chief because Igbos did not even respect them. They're like, who are these people? We don't have kings. We've never had kings. If you want to get our approval, come to the Umuna meeting. Come and let us hear what you have to say. Don't come and send somebody and say this is now the person in charge of this area. Who are you? So that's kind of how it is.
Sir, I just saw someone in the chat saying, "What if a South African Indian from KZN won Miss South Africa? Is that acceptable?" It's about like Karishni Naika. If you look up a lady called Karishni Naika, so beautiful. She was Indian. She won it. She's one of them in South Africa, which is exactly what I keep stressing, that for people on the outside, they just don't understand that for us, this is normal. This is normal. Yes, we've had an Indian Miss South Africa and there were no protests. No one made a big deal about it. Now we have a white Miss South Africa. Again, no protests. It's fine. This happens all the time. This is, it makes sense to us. But anyway,
here's an interesting. Let me just answer this question before we move on. Somebody's asking, so how do the Igbos govern each other before? Like we had various systems, right? And it differs from tribe to tribe. But for the most part, it was kind of like a quasi-democracy. So how the Igbo structure is that the oldest male from every family is the leader of that family and represents the family in what we call the Umuna meeting. That's like a communal meeting where people come to make decisions. So every first male, that's the oldest male, not first, but the oldest male from every household represents that household in the meeting. Now, doesn't mean it was a patriarchal society, because you also had like the women group, and the women group will have a voice. They have a say in the Umuna meeting, even though they may not necessarily be present. But before the Umuna will pass a decision, they have to consult the women group. And then they also had the youth group. So it was really a democratic society. We are practicing democracy way before it was cool. Okay? Give us our... Yeah, way before it was cool. We were practicing democracy. You have to respect that. The only people that didn't have a say in the society were children, because they didn't have any group. You sit at home and you shut up. Wow. But you had the youth group, and the youth group were like the enforcers. And the Umuna cannot do anything in society, and that will run contrary to the interests of like the youth, the people like the youth group. They had to respect that. They were respected, not like giving serious respect, but like respect kind of. Even now, if you can't do anything in Igbo land and not consider the youths, just know it will not fly. The same way you can't do it without considering the elders. The elders are usually the elderly men. Your Umuna, you have to recognize them. Also, anything without considering the women. So it was really a cool, but the thing is that is how to scale it. That's the problem, because people are living in tribes. It's easier, but when you are living in a big, how do you scale such kind of like representation? That becomes the problem. Yeah. So the next question we are going to ask is, how do we get rid of tribalism in Africa?
You can't.
You can't?
No, you can't, because like you said, we've always moved in tribes and we've always identified with tribes. So before you were Nigerian, your Igbo, your Yoruba, your Hausa, like, you know, even before you're Nigerian, before you're African, you're Nigerian, before you're Nigerian, you're then all those things. So you can't get rid of it. It's just the way, it's a way of living. It's a way of life.
What do you think about them, man?
You know, I think that when it comes to, you know, crafting this or removing, you know, tribalism, right, is that the Pan-African project has failed and is going to fail, right? And clean up our backyards first and focus on
The only people who don't, sorry, the only people who don't know that the Pan-Africanism is funny is Black Americans. Well, like, we are like, you don't know how ridiculous Pan-Africanism is.
Actually, Black Americans and Julius Malema, those that they all think the project is alive, but the project is dead, right? There's definitely a rise of black, like, I'll definitely say there's a rise of black consciousness, right? You see it. You see African people speaking out and telling Palestinians, like, no, we're not your pawn pieces, right? So you're seeing that, right? So the question is, how can we recreate what's happening in Burkina Faso with Ibrahim Traore? And I'm not talking about a coup. I'm talking about the resurgence of, you know, young people wanting to be in control of their destiny, right? Because at the moment we're being ruled by dinosaurs. There's no reason why we should have a 90-year-old president in Africa, right? Yet we have this. How is someone who's 80 talking about, like, they're here to determine the future? They're not going to be here. They're not going to be here. What are they talking about future? You know what I mean? Like, this doesn't make sense. So what it actually shows is that as young people in Africa, we are serious about our future. We're really not serious, right? How is it that we don't have people in their 30s, 40s starting political parties all across Africa, trying to change the narrative, trying to drive change? It's always the dinosaurs. You know what I'm saying?
They've made it impossible for people in their 30s. They've almost made it, they've discouraged them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like
demoralization works a lot.
Demoralization,
I see a lot of demoralization.
And you gotta remember, I also feel like with the dinosaurs, like I said, we're gonna call them the dinosaurs. The problem with the dinosaurs is I have never seen any other part of the world, I'm gonna speak for Zimbabwe, where people own social media, like people own Instagram. If that makes sense. As in, they're so much in control of who goes viral within the country on social media, what's being posted, what's being seen. It's like they've changed their way of propaganda, and it's like now it's in your music, it's in your media, it's in everything you take in. It's like, if you're not shouting ZANU-PF, what else are you shouting in Zimbabwe?
They what I think experience is being curated in a way, like in Zimbabwe, right?
What I think about tribalism in Africa is that, to a huge extent, being tribal is not really a bad thing, like Exotic was saying. Maybe it's because I come from a tribal society, so to a huge extent I see some of the benefits, right? Because one thing is, it's good to have like a strong tribal identity. Like, because you said something, Modern Man, about how in the West, everybody is like, the tribe is ideological, not the kind we have in Africa. It's more an ideological kind of tribe, where you are either on Trump camp, you are in the Trump camp, or you are in the Kamala Harris camp, or you are far left, or you're far right, that kind of ideological camp. And I think the reason why you have ideological camps in the West is because the real tribal identity is like being watered down. So people don't identify more with their families, with their kin, with their clan. That kind of thing no longer, even with their fellow countrymen, they don't share that strong bond. There's no strong British identity. There's no strong French identity. So what replaces it is ideology. And I don't want that for Africa. I don't want real relationship to be replaced with ideological relationship, because ideological relationship is not real. Like, I don't think it is real. What is real
but
is
when it
shared
comes to this whole African identity, that's what you guys are fighting for. You're fighting for an ideology, which is everybody should be able to access this identity. But you guys are not looking at the struggles of the identity. Just because I identify with being British, it doesn't mean that I understand being British, like you guys said, right? The same way as a white person can go and identify as being Zimbabwean, doesn't mean that I understand being Zimbabwean, guys.
The problem with that, Exotic, is that like no matter how you try and spin it, right, it's always going to alienate someone, right? You're going to alienate groups by trying to do it your way, Exotic. And what you're seeing in Africa, right, is the phenomenon of the brain drain, right, where the brightest Africans are leaving. They're going to European countries. They're coming to Australia. They're going. These are the people who could be helping Africa. These are the people that could be helping us build or rebuild, right? These are the leaders of tomorrow, right? But what's happening is that this unwillingness to change the way we do things and being in this tribal mentality is causing people to actually look for opportunities elsewhere, right? So it's to our detriment. Staying this tribalistic is going to be to our detriment, right?
But
We
I
have to
don't think it's the
adapt.
tribe. I think it's the
This is what I'm
dinosaurs.
coming from. I was heading somewhere. So, like, there's something you said, Exotic, which is that if you allow people to become, to include people into your tribe, somehow it waters it down. No, I don't think it does. I don't think it
Of
does. It
course
shows
it
that you
does.
have. No. Because my problem with the African tribe or tribalism in Africa is how rigid it is and how it is defined by what we define it by. Like, it's not defined by shared cultural values. There are values culturally that we share. We share a language, right? When if you somebody values our language and speaks our language, it should give them credit. When we should give them credit and see them in a way as someone who can, if they keep working hard, you can become part of this. When somebody shares your value as a whatever tribe you belong to in Zimbabwe, they share those values. They speak your language. They live like you. They eat your food. They act like you. They do all these things because they love your culture. They love your. Then you say, no, you still are not part of us because you don't share our blood. Like,
No,
this blood, no,
no.
this blood thing and this land thing is what led to fascism and Nazism. Is how the whole purifying of the Aryan blood is all predicated on this, where your identity is land and blood. People don't understand that if you read fascist ideology, that is how it came to be. And in Africa, we have this, and we don't know just how destructive it is.
So, guys,
Look,
my question for you too then is: so you
okay,
guys are saying that Africans should be the only set of people to
okay.
ignore their own survival instincts or their own way to wanting their DNA to be the one that's the only variation to go on. Is that what you guys are saying? I'm confused here because are you saying that we should lack survival instincts? Are you saying Africans should lack survival instincts? What are you guys saying? I'm confused. Because as far as I'm concerned, me
Exotic.
protecting my
What
tribe
Exotic is
a
what Exotic
survival
is
thing.
trying to say, Exotic, no, because here's the thing, right? So if you take a white person in Africa, right, we're always going to be distinct because we look different, right? Our skin is very different, right? So no matter how you swing it, we might have, there's always going to be that aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
So I think what it sounds like you have the same fear that like somehow your identity is going to be eroded, but your identity will never be eroded, right? Because how do you carry on tradition,
That
right?
is
You
it.
name
And,
your
and the
kids.
sad thing about it is that is a fascist ideology. It is real fascism. That
Exactly.
is real fascism.
My
Where
point exactly.
you
That's why
want
I
to you
say
want to
it's
preserve
to our detriment.
your bloodline. You want to preserve whatever it is you are trying to preserve. That is textbook. I don't know, fascism. Where identity is tied, and I'm saying it seriously, that identity should be based on values. Identity should be based on other things that
So
can
you're saying
be.
a Caucasian woman's values and a Zimbabwean woman's values are the same?
I'm not saying they are the same. I'm saying if a white lady, white
But both of them
Caucasian
should have
comes to
access to the
no.
identity.
If a white person comes to Zimbabwe, learns the language, adopts the culture, in fact becomes more Zimbabwean in behavior than you, because of how long she has lived here, why shouldn't she be seen as one of you?
But who
See, Frank,
says
you know
that?
what's a
But
good,
who
good
examines
example.
that?
Sorry, Exotic.
But who
You know
examines
what's a
that and
good
says that person is qualified now to become Zimbabwean?
The question is, will people in Zimbabwe see her as Zimbabwean? That's what do you think?
People in Zimbabwe, they would see her as Zimbabwean, but I
Then
wouldn't.
I'm happy. Then I'm okay, boy. Okay. People in Zimbabwe are more liberal than you are.
Yeah.
Frank,
Okay.
you know what this makes me think of, right? So again, Nigeria and South Africa. This is like, I feel like South Africa is like Drake, we're just fighting everyone, right? But with the UFC,
Yeah, Kendrick Lamar.
with with the UFC, right? With the UFC, Stylebender, what's his name? Adesanya. What's his name? Israel, yeah, Adesanya. Right. I don't know if you heard about the controversy where the white South
I know about the
African
controversy.
was like,
Yeah.
he said that I'm the
Duplessis, and I'm the African champion. He said he's the
exactly.
African champion. He trained in Africa. He's from Africa. He breathed African air.
Yeah.
And then,
But let's clarify. And let's clarify. It sounds like you're giving it too many liberties. Hang on, no, hang on. You're giving us the Nigerian version. This is exactly what's happening. That's what he said. What he said was, he said that this is going to be the first time that the trophy goes to stay in Africa, right?
Yes.
That's what he said. That's how we started. And then he said, and he is an African champion, and but all of this it's a fact, right? So my question is like, someone who was born in Africa, raised in Africa, trains in Africa, becomes a champion in Africa, right?
We'll bring the trophy home to Africa, by the way.
Exactly. And
look at where... will take it straight to Australia. Let us not forget that. It's not, that trophy is not coming to Lagos. It is going straight to Melbourne or wherever, or Sydney or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not coming to Africa. But do you know the funny thing? If Adesanya had won, people will say, yeah, that's an African champion. I'm like, African champion how? Adesanya was once Chinese. Then he became Kiwi. He has been so many identities. You know, the place has always been one, African. But because he's white, it's like, oh, forget it.
But people like Exotic won't give him that grace, right?
They will not give him that.
You know.
Grace to what? To identify as an African.
He was born in Africa.
He's an African.
No, I mean,
it's like Exotic, but don't you see
if
the
he's
irony
bringing the medal back home, then that's fine. If he's bringing medal back, listen, the same way as they say people like Mo Farah here should identify as British when they go to the Olympics and they get all these medals, the same way. Fair enough.
Mo
Farah Coventry is Zimbabwean.
Crazy. I don't know if you guys have heard.
If there's one thing we've been able to establish is that African society are far right. Is a far right society.
Yes,
honestly,
it's a far right bigoted society.
Exotic. If I were to ask you, what are you doing in the UK? Because it sounds like sometimes that you don't like white people. Maybe I'm wrong. So my question.
I'm following my ancestors.
Now I swear I'm going to sound like I'm far right, but what are you doing in the UK if you don't like them?
I'm following my ancestors.
What do you mean by you following?
How did the ancestors lead you to the UK?
My ancestors were financially, morally, culturally, spiritually abused for 400 years.
Oh boy.
As Black people, I think we've only been doing it for about 40 years. So I'm following my ancestors. I'm just taking revenge for my ancestors.
No, don't even do that. I don't think people from Zimbabwe. This is one thing people need to know in Africa. It's not every part of Africa that was taken as slaves through Europe by Europeans. Let us stop this, okay? Most of the slaves came from West Africa. I'm not sure anyone came from.
I didn't say we're slaves. I said we were financially abused.
How were you financially abused for 400 years? 400. When did colonialism start? 400.
No, they definitely didn't take anyone from Zimbabwe as
no, those little men. How can they take those little men?
Definitely did not.
When they came to Zimbabweans called themselves South African. They skipped out. I'm telling you, no one was taken from you.
If there are people who should talk about we were exploited for 400, come to West Africa. That's where you'll be okay. This is where they took most of the slaves. They didn't take anybody from Zimbabwe. Have you had anybody from Europe say I did my 23andMe and it showed that I'm from Zimbabwe? Have you seen anybody do that?
Guys, look at me, Frank. Let me tell you how I think.
I can't see you, like you're not on this.
You see this little white ball up here? That's me, the ball up in the middle. So guys, the way I look at this, I look at this perspective. I look at this from my perspective, which is Personally, I believe that I should exploit the white economy the same way as they exploited the
But
African
this is the thing,
economy.
if you want to,
Throwback.
if you want to exploit white economy, the way they exploited you, then do it the way they did it. Okay, you go there,
Oh,
you
you want me
wage a
to
war.
chain them?
Yeah, you chain them because you know you can't. You know you can't. No, no, no,
I'm
no.
not a
You know you
sadist.
all these
I'm
things.
not a
I hear
sadist.
Africans say this nonsense a lot. They did it to us. Now it's our turn to do it to them. I'm like, do it to them the same way they did it to you, and see if you would live to tell the
It's
story.
my turn to japa.
Yeah, we
Yes.
are oppressing them the same way they oppress them well. Do it the right. See, if that's what you want to do, I will support you fully because I know it's not end well. Go ahead. Do
The
it
UK never,
that way.
the UK never even took slaves in Africa. No, they didn't take any slaves, but they enslaved those Africans in Africa.
Oh boy.
Chinese
Like,
labor.
it sounds like, you know, like it
The
sounds
Boer
like you.
War.
Because let me just say, when both you and Frank actually said that it's demoralizing, I'm gonna be honest, that was demoralizing to me, right? Because it still sounds like you guys still, you know, still holding on to the past. Like,
There's so many things
oh,
about
geez.
Yes.
about Africa that get me upset and get me like even in Nigeria. That's why to talk about the Nigerian problem, even on YouTube, we get like there's so many times I'll be talking about, let's say, something that is happening in Ghana or something that not Ghana. I've not spoken about Ghana. Let's say something that's happening in the US, something that's happening in the UK, and there's something brewing in my backyard. The reason why I'm not talking about it is that just talking about it just gets me weak. I just like I don't want to say it. It's because you can see all the angles of the problem. You can even imagine the solution, but you know that thing you know is the solution will never be done. Like it will never. It is the last thing that is going to be on the mind of any person.
But
when it
let me
comes to the
challenge
issue
you.
of okay,
Let me challenge you, right? So a lot of the time when we think about, like, for example, I saw someone in the chat talking about, they asked you, like, how can we get the government to create jobs or something like that, right? I challenge people to have a different mentality, right? Rather than looking at the government as the entity to create jobs, the government, stop thinking like that. Think about the government. They're there to govern, right? Enforce the rule of law. They're not there to give you a job, right? So let you know, let the like, don't focus on the government and the public purse in order to try earn a living, right? So instead of thinking about resources, think about being resourceful. So resourcefulness rather than resources, right? So as an example, Exotic said earlier on, I think she mentioned something about apps, right? In South Africa, there are young people that have created apps. For example, if you need someone to come and clean your house, right? Like an Uber for cleaners, right?
which
There's
Nigerians horrible. By the we
I'm
was
saying,
it part of the app that we used to fight?
Nah, but you know, there's a guy on my social media who's creating like some banking app who seems to be getting a lot of funding. You know, young people are they're doing things instead of just sitting at home and just complaining. I mean, even this, right, is helpful, right? We're changing the narrative. You know, we're no longer just saying, "Oh, poor us Africans," you know, like handout, you know, from the West. We're saying, "No, well, we can have this conversation. We can think about solutions, right? We no longer have to act like we're there with the begging. Do you know what I'm saying? Like we need to start thinking like that. Like, okay, there's 3 of us here. There's even more people in the chat. When we put all our brains together, what can we do? What can an individual do to help the next person, right? Rather than just complaining. We've complained so much. I mean, that guy,
Yeah,
Ibrahim Traore, he also basically, I've never seen any African leader do this, right? Maybe I'm just ignorant, but he literally told the British that, you know, I'm going to take those mines from you guys and there's nothing you can do. I mean, damn, man, like, why did we need like a young leader to do that? The dinosaurs never did that.
This is when it comes to entrepreneurship in Africa, like my tribe, the tribe where I'm from, the Igbo tribe, we have the entrepreneur spirit. You know, my issue in Nigeria is not even the fact that we don't have like bright minds who try to innovate, try to come up with stuff. Is that, and my issue with the government is not even that they are corrupt. No, that's not my issue with the Nigerian government. So I talk about the corruption in Nigeria, but the truth is corruption in Nigeria is not the real problem with this part of the world. The real problem is that we have a government that is dedicated committed, devoted to frustrating the hell. Frustrating the hell out of you. That is my problem. I've given many instances of this that happen in Nigeria, where you are a private individual, you are trying to run a thriving business, and you are doing well. And one day, the government wakes up and say, who is Chinedu? Why does he have this business? Let us go and harass him. And then they start. Before you know, give it 6 months. They've kicked you out of Nigeria. This as their list of entrepreneurs that they've done this to. Count. The recent one was the one they did, the person who opened the resort in Lagos. He had to go to at a different West African country to continue his business. The other one they did was with Innocent. They had to chase Innocent to, instead of having a factory in Nigeria, he had to open his factory in Ghana. This was the government actively frustrating him. Nigerian government are very interesting set of people. It's like, if your business is not going to benefit us in a way, if you're not going to do what we want you to do as a businessman, we're going to kick you out of the country and we'll come up with bogus reasons to do it. So imagine where you live in that country where you have people you have the government actively trying to frustrate you. That is why the best mind in the country, even the innovative ones, the entrepreneur, the ones who are entrepreneurs, they leave the country. I know like businessmen who have to even go to Cameroon, next door neighbor Cameroon, to start their business because it was difficult to start it in Nigeria. I know people who had to go to, I know Nigerians always clown Ghana. Ghana this, Ghana that. I know many Nigerians who had to go to Ghana to start their business. They could not start it in Nigeria because the government is active. It's like they are watching. They have this binocle. They will do it, how they will do, whether it is from the local level, from the state level, or from the federal level. It depends on the level of your business. If your business is the one that is just on the grassroots, the local government will just be chasing you like they are the ones that gave you capital. When it's on the state level, when your business is statewide, the state governor will just be chasing you up and down. When it's now something that is huge, that even the federal government got wind of it, then they send their thugs in aka officials after you come up with one policy. The one they did in Lagos, they told the guy who owns the resort that where he built his resort is where the state government want to build a ultra modern whatever highway, that he has to relocate his resort. They demolished the resort, and then after demolishing it, they announced that they didn't have the money to do the highway. Of course, we know that they must have asked him for something. They wanted something from him. He said no. They're like, okay, we are coming. And this is how they came.
Wow. Okay. Well,
so imagine living in that atmosphere where the government is actively. That's why I say they are committed, dedicated, devoted to frustrating you in any way possible.
Wow. I mean, to be honest with you, I've never heard of this. I kind of actually feel sorry for Nigerians in a way. I mean, I kind of feel like I should give them a little bit more grace and understand why.
Currently, the Nigerian government came up and said social media, people who run social media have to, who earn from social media now have to pay taxes. And we have to. That one was the one that when I saw the announcement, I just started laughing. I was like, just chase all of us. You know what to do? You just come and say, everybody leave this country. Just chase all of us. Chase us away. We get no benefits. You do no roads. You provide nothing. We have no social amenity. Nothing whatsoever. And you want me to pay you tax for what? Taxes for what? Will you give me
get it from your white Miss Universe?
Oh dear. Zimbabwe. Let me just say, Zimbabwe and Nigeria, you guys are like this. Both just absolute terrible countries. You know what I mean? There are more people, there are more Nigerians in South Africa.
Zimbabwe is worse. No matter how bad Nigeria is, look at Zimbabwe. Like, thank God they're not like this. Okay. Okay, we look at Zimbabwe right now. Thank God they're not like this. Okay?
You guys kidnap each other. You guys kidnap each other.
You kidnap people that have money now. You cannot kidnap people from Zimbabwe.
That's embarrassing. How can you kidnap a human being? You guys kidnap each other and kill each other. You guys useless each other's lives.
It's people that can pay ransom. You kidnap people that can pay ransom. Okay, it's not somebody that cannot pay ransom. If I kidnap someone from Zimbabwe now, I will have to return them, and it will be expensive. It will be expensive on my part because I will not get anything. It's a waste of resources.
Sorry, if I'm hurting your feelings. I'm a sarcastic person. I don't mean any of the racist
stuff. This is me being sarcastic in my response. I'm giving you
the person in the comments.
We are going sarcasm for sarcasm. You understand? There's no hard feelings. I am.
No, but honestly, I think, look, I didn't know it was that terrible in Nigeria. It makes sense because, look, as South Africans, we always wonder, why would someone catch a flight from Nigeria? Like, you don't even stop in Ghana, Congo, like, catch a flight all the way to South Africa. Like,
Nigerians
how
are
bad are
everywhere.
things?
Nigerians are everywhere. There are Nigerians in Cameroon. We have a strong Nigerian population in Cameroon. We have a thriving Nigerian population in Ghana. We have a thriving Nigerian population in South Africa.
Bro.
I'm very sure if you check even in that Zimbabwe that I'm clowning,
They
you will
do.
see.
Yeah.
They do. Like literally, do you know, guys, the funny thing, when I land in Zimbabwe, the first thing I do is I go to Longchen to eat egusi and pounded yam.
Wow.
That's the first thing I eat when I get to Zimbabwe.
I'm very sure it was a very nice Akwa Ibom woman that cooked the food for you, because they are very good at cooking.
It was a Nigerian man speaking Shona in Nigerian accent. Oh my God, my heart melted.
Oh, you will see that. You will see. No. Look. Especially people from the Igbo tribe. You will see an Igbo person will go to Ghana, and the way he will be speaking the language they speak there, you'll be like, one name. You sure you are still an Igbo person? Because an Igbo person will do anything for, just to earn a living and be able to take care of their family, because that is important for them. Like the Igbos, they value hard work, and being an entrepreneur, being industrious, not wasting your time and wasting your life. So anything and they also have this value in people's handwork. Like your hard work is not something anybody should look down on. Like your hustle is not something anybody should clown on. So anything you have to do to make that hustle work, go ahead and do it. Even if you have to you represent yourself as a South African or whatever, you have to do it. Be committed to it. The problem I have with Chidinma, who has an Igbo name, is that she did not even she's an Igbo person in diaspora. She was not born and raised there. The Igbo way of life was not taught to this young lady, because if it was an Igbo lady that was doing, like somebody that was born and raised, by Igbo parents in South Africa, she would learn the language. In fact, she may even hide her Igbo name, shorten it in a way that it will look like it comes from one of those tribes. You will not know that actually the long form is another name. She comes and then you'll be like, we like this lady, and she will not try to upset or annoy you. It's just Chidinma did not receive home training. I will say it. Chidinma did not receive proper Nigerian home training. Yeah, so you blend. You blend in. You are not in the UK. You are in South Africa, for Christ's sake. In the UK, you can be like, it's racism, but it's in South Africa.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be very interesting to see where all this goes, especially for Nigeria, because I didn't know how terrible it was right over there. So, I mean, it's like, I don't know what the options are. I don't know if people have ever tried to challenge this legally, or you have to do it the African way. I don't know what it's going to take. But it's worrying. It's worrying, right? Because South Africans are turning into like British people with their concerns. I mean, I've noticed South Africans actually say they're trying to replace us. Like, I'm like, what? I thought we were all black, but you know what I mean? Like, South Africans are worried. Like, yo, they're trying to replace us. You know what I mean? South Africans do not want. They're like, there's enough Nigerians. I'm like, I never thought I'd ever hear South Africans say like, that's enough now. Like that's enough. But yeah, man, that's just
Guys, I want an Igbo name. I think my Igbo name is Omalicha. So when I come to Nigeria, I'm gonna go around saying my name is now Omalicha. You see?
I know that you know the meaning of Omalicha. That is why you chose it. I know you know the meaning of Omalicha. That's why you're like, you know what? If I'm going to choose an Igbo name, you know what is Omalicha?
Wait. But okay, I've got a question then. So if I'm Omalicha now, right? I come and I live in Nigeria for about 10 years, doing my Omalicha stuff, and I give birth to a baby. Can that baby then compete in your Miss Universe?
Okay, if you're married to a Nigerian man, yes. Nobody's going to ask who's your mother. It's who's your father.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Who's your father? But
hey, by the way, did you see? I swear, Frank, man, like the South African Nigeria beef will never end. So there's a runner, right? A 400-meter runner. His mother is South African. His father is Nigerian, and he won at the under 20 Diamond League games or something like that, right? I think his name is like Okunle something. I don't know. Okon something. You know what I mean?
Spell it.
And
Spell it out to me in the chat. Let me know.
hang on. I'll in there. Udeme Okon. Udeme
Udeme
Okon. Yeah, Udeme Okon. Yeah.
That's an Akwa.
You know.
That's people from the south.
Yeah, he put that. You know, he won like 400 meters, and South Africans were like, yeah. They're like, wait, what does that say? Udeme.
Udeme. Who they what?
People were like, man, here's another Chidima. Like, yo, we need to investigate.
Here goes another Chidima. These people are taking our jobs. Does that not sound familiar? They're taking our jobs. Does that not sound familiar? Is that not the same thing does that not sound familiar? This is what I find very interesting. The same people that will be like, these people are taking our jobs. They cannot run, no. They cannot run, but or whatever it is that they did, they cannot do it. But another funny thing is that those same people will go to Europe, and when the Europeans are like, these people are taking our jobs, they'll be like, racist. These people are racist. I won't blame you. Americans have Westerners have teaching you a new. They've taught you. I say teacher. They've taught you a new word. They taught you a new word because you don't use that word. Yeah, you don't say these people are tribal.
I will say this though. I will say this. Sometimes, to an extent, there is some truth to that, right? Can you mute Exotic? There is a little bit of truth to that, right? As an example, right? So people can deny it as much as they want, or they can call me right wing, whatever, right? The fact of the matter is that sometimes, especially in South Africa, what employers will do is rather than pay you a fair wage, right? As a let's say you're a South African, rather than pay you a fair wage, they know you know your rights, right? I'm rather going to pay a Zimbabwean like a third or a quarter of the amount to do the same job, right? Plus, they're in the country illegally, so they'll take that money, right? They'll take whatever they can, you know, and then so you're undercutting South Africans, right? South Africans who would go to their union if anything happens, etc., right? So, last week, there's a major story in South Africa with two white farmers. Okay. They killed 2 black women and fed their bodies to pigs.
Whoa.
Yeah, they fed their bodies to pigs. Okay. And they were assisted by 2 other black men. So 2 white farmers, 2 black men killed and fed the bodies of black women to pigs in South Africa. But they turned out to be Zimbabwean. You know
what turned out to be Zimbabwean? The women or the men that helped?
So both the women and the men turned out to be Zimbabwean, right? Again, showing, you know, and they basically are people who didn't have papers to be in South Africa, right? Not that, I mean, people have passed away, we'll be respectful, but is pointing out that there's so much of this that happens. And the people who are in South Africa look at these people as non-factors, like you think like you can just erase a person. You know what I mean? Absolutely no respect for other human beings. You know, and this is unfortunately what people, you know, put themselves up against when they enter illegally.
Yeah, true. And so in conclusion about the question, how can we get rid of racism, tribalism in Africa? I think the thing is that we should not go too strong on the tribal identity. We should try to dumb it down, be very welcoming. You know, and we pride ourselves oftentimes with our hospitality, but you know, we should also extend that hospitality to being able to say, okay, this person is still one of us because of this. We should not be too closed. The same thing we tell British people to do. We should try and do it. You know, listen to the same thing we want others to do to us. We should try and do it to others as well. You know, and it's possible. It will not make us lose our identity if we are welcoming of others. It doesn't make us lose our identity. We are still who we are, you know, because what defines us is more than things like blood and land, you know, it's culture, you know, and culture is something you take with you wherever you can take it with you even to a foreign country. You can still we still have people who stick to they celebrate New Yam Festival even while they're in the UK. Where they don't eat yam there, but why are you celebrating New Year Festival? But they still celebrate it there because culture is something you carry with you. That language, that dressing, that mannerism, that value carry it with you anywhere. And any person who imbibes that wants to be a part of that and is ready to, and you can say this person is not putting in the work to be that. Don't be so closed and rigid that you will not be willing to accept them. Especially people who leave their land, come and stay in your land and are investing in it. Like, be open enough to say this person is one of us and not be afraid. Exotic. If you come, no matter the Omalisha that you bear in Nigeria, we will chase you. No matter the amount of Omalisha that you pay when you come. If you like, call yourself Omalisha 1 or Omalisha 17.
No, but I'm saying, is that not a bit of entitlement to go into somebody's land and then be like, accept me? Is that not a bit of...
Yeah, but you are doing that right now in Europe, but you're not entitled.
No. This one I'm entitled to. No. This one is my very own. You and the modern here, you guys also got your own 400 years to come. Me, this is just mine.
Yeah. So they are, if they want to be part of your society and are ready to put in the work, invest and all whatnot, and they expect you to embrace them, they are entitled, right? But if you do it, if you do it, you are not entitled. You don't have a sense of entitlement because you've earned it. You've done, or your ancestors have worked for you to benefit from it.
Yes.
Yeah. The reason why, listen, the reason why you're able to do what you're able to do in Europe is not because of your ancestors. It's because Europeans allowed it. The day they decide to, I say, like a huge majority of them are like, you know what, we are done. These people should come and go. There's nothing you will do to stop them from chasing you. That is the truth. You're not there because you're and you know it. Everybody knows this. You're not there in Europe because you're entitled. You're there because they allow you. The day it becomes popular to kick you out, they will kick you out. And no amount of ancestors did. Do you know that will stop it? They just kick you out and you're out. You're gone. You're out of there. The end. Nothing. No guilt tripping will change anything. You understand what I'm saying? So the reason why you are able to be there is because you are in an open society where they are welcoming. They really are. Yes, they have their issue. I'm not saying they're perfect, but they are welcoming. They are really welcoming. More welcoming than you.
Yes,
that's a fact, man. So I think we need to stop all this trying to make white people feel bad for slavery or whatever it is. Like what way past this? Like we need to get into Black consciousness 2.0, man. Like we need to move past that. It's becoming old. You know what I mean? Like making white people there's people that they hold ceremonies where white people apologize as a group, or you know what I mean. I don't know if you ever saw that thing that they had online where white people have to give a Black person they know $10 to apologize for slavery. I mean, come on, man. Like,
they should do that. More of them should be willing to do that.
What are you talking about, Exotic? Are you kidding? What are you talking about?
Represent me. She's representing herself right now.
No, guys, let's actually be honest, guys. Had this been the other way around, and it had been as I done this to white-looking people, whether they were from Albania, Poland, wherever it may be, white-looking people. If this had been the opposite way around, and we had killed masses, chained masses, lynched masses, done weird shit to masses, raped children, women, and men.
Okay, some of the things you're saying are exaggerated, but the point is, it was done to those people as well. You see, this is one thing people don't understand about like slavery and human rights and all these things we talk about today. For the most part in human history, these things did not exist. People lived practically as slaves for a very long time. That's how we lived. Like, even when we are owning slaves, we are slaves owning other slaves, because you have the king and the king can do with you whatever he wills. How much rights do you have? At the end of the day, you didn't have much. And these people did not say, oh, because of that, the crown is going to pay us. There's no person that the king or the current king is paying anybody anything in Europe and say, you know what, because for a very long time you were my serfs and I was exploiting you, as people under my domain. Now I'm going to pay you stuff. No, nobody's getting paid for being under the domain of the king for a very long time.
Then I'll forcefully take my reparations. That's why I'm stealing their jobs. Okay,
job stealer, calm down. The next question I want to ask is, do we still suffer from colonialism?
Yes, we do, clearly. Clearly.
All right, explain.
Oh, Exotic. I feel like, Frank, I feel like Exotic would sell us out. You know what I mean? Like she would actually call us traitors, and like 1000%, she'd tell other black people that we're selling out secrets, or we spoke up against black people, because I think like she thinks that we're so anti-black for having, particular opinions, and it's not. I think it's just
It's cool.
challenging how black people think. Like I don't think, as an example, that whole idea that because you're black, you have to vote Harris, right? Or that's I think, and that's you have to lean more Democrat, right? And if you challenge that, as an example, like what they're challenging right now, the fact that if you're black, you have to start saying free Palestine. Like people are like, no, you're out your mind. You're out your damn mind. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? So it's like we're gonna see more and more of that.
Yeah. What I think about, do we still suffer from colonialism? No, but do we have neocolonialism in Africa? Yes, we do, especially in Francophone Africa, which is funny enough. This is the thing about African problem. We have a current version of the past problem. People ignore the current problem of the current version of the past problem and focus on the past problem. If you ask somebody like exotic now about colonialism, do we suffer? They'll be like, yes, they are still controlling our government somehow. The reason why our government is under the thumb of the British is because of colonialism. You see, it's still present. And I'm like, no. I know there's a version of colonialism in Africa. It's happening in Francophone West Africa. It is not happening in Zimbabwe. You people have been under the thumb of Mugabe for a very long time. He has been repressing, doing everything, drowning your economy, doing everything possible to make life difficult for you guys, making you put the laughing stock of Africa. He has been doing all of that all by himself. Okay, he did not need assistance from anybody. But you still have to, in a way, say, yeah, but I think somehow the white man. No, even white leaders don't like him. They didn't like him when he was there. They did not like him.
We like him.
They will give you like.
Listen, Frank, I've told you this before.
Idi Amin was a terrible Uganda general. Terrible. Nobody liked Idi Amin. He drowned Uganda. Submerged that country. Did so many horrible stuff. Was very, very dangerous. And you want to tell me that even the Europeans that we are complaining about Idi Amin, we are in support of him? Come on. There are things we had in Nigeria. Not Nigeria had our own share of it. We had Sani Abacha. Oh, people talk about dictators in Africa, but nobody mentions Sani. Sani Abacha was a devil. Okay, Sani Abacha was any person who criticized him, you are gone. I thank God he didn't rule for very long. Maybe that's why he didn't become popular, that he didn't stay for long. If he had stayed for long, maybe my parents would have left. If he had stayed for long, maybe by now I'll be in Ghana, I'll be in South Africa, maybe I'll be
I see Mugabe as a hero. He's my hero.
I like that you see him as a hero. I like that our heroes are very wonderful people. So that's the thing about these leaders. They are terrible. But there is neocolonialism, like I said, which is one of the reasons why you see many of the coups happening in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Niger, because they are wading off French influence and how the French government have been in control of their economy for a very long time and is refusing to let go. Yeah, that is a different thing. And this is the funny thing. When people talk about colonialism in Africa, they don't mention that. What they go on to mention is, remember when 200, remember in 1945 when
was my hero, babes. Me.
But Frank, like what you're saying, neocolonialism, though. How are we defining colonialism, right? Because I don't think you can call bad governance neocolonialism.
No. Let me explain.
True.
Let me explain neocolonialism.
I want to see why you're saying this neocolonialism, because I don't see
this neocolonialism in French in Francophone Africa. The central bank of these countries, okay, is not. They don't have a central bank. Their central bank is in France. It's the French government run. Okay, the currency they use is issued by the French government, and they cannot devalue their currency or do anything to their currency without approval from France. When they want to sell their natural resources, the French companies get first right of choosing. That is, the French companies are the ones that will have to buy it and they have to determine the price. And it is on the French companies saying no that they can now sell to others. And the people, the others they have to sell to is the French government that say, okay, sell to that person. Don't sell to that person. And in exchange, the French is like, oh, we are going to make your economy strong. We are going to give you security. Which in places like Niger, they have Mali and other parts of Burkina Faso. They failed in doing that. They failed. Security zero. Making the economy better zero. They've really not done. Yes, you can say also that these parts of the world still had corrupt leaders, because for neocolonialism to go for long, like as it has gone unchallenged, nothing has been done to stop it, like we are seeing recently, is because you have corrupt governments. Yes, but it does not change the fact that the French government had a serious hold. In fact, one of the presidents in the early 2000s said that if not for West Africa, France will not be where it is today. Like, they even recognize it. This is not a hidden something. It's just people don't pay attention to it. But it's not a hidden,
because you're calling these countries francophone, right? So that in itself it just sounds like it's colonialism in continued form. That's all it is.
Yes,
right? I would argue
that
what we can argue is that.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, what we can argue is that like neocolonialism would be China in Zimbabwe, as an example, or China in Kenya, right?
But it's worse than that, though. But it's worse than that, though. Like, I think it's worse than that. It is worse than that. Like other European countries, we are like, oh, we are going to leave Africa. France was like, leave? Who said leave? Really? We are going to leave? No, we are not going to leave. That is how France took it. Like, we are not really going to leave.
France is like a
and they were not intending. They were not intending.
Yeah.
But I feel like Britain didn't leave a lot of countries as well, because they still influence their judicial systems.
How exactly? I feel like
are you saying because we use common law? Because we practice common law, therefore, because we adopt the British common law, that's why in our legal system we are still colonized. It's like saying because we wear shirts, then we are still colonized. So we should prance around naked. It's like, I don't understand the argument. People say that. I hear people say that, oh, you people are still practicing British common law. I'm like, because British common law is good. Like, British common law is not bad. As opposed to what? Communal association. Where if you don't attend meeting, they'll come and seize your working tools.
But guys, no, wait, hold on.
Communal association that does not recognize freedom of speech. Is that what you want in replacement to common law? Like, what are you talking about?
No, I'm saying,
common law got rid of so many barbaric practices that we are going on in Africa. You want us to replace, like, people always do this when they talk about colonial laws that are still like laws that we inherited from colonial era. Like, Africans should get rid of those. I'm like, you know, those laws were good, right? You know, those laws were, the problem of colonialism was not that law. The laws, the British common law was not the problem. It was the exploitation that was the problem. It's like, because we are against exploitation, we have to be against everything British. No, now.
Yeah.
You have to, when there's a good thing, you say it is a good thing. It works. African societies, most African societies have never.
That's what I'm saying.
It worked for us. It worked for us. It helped to create a very orderly society. Look, okay, you bring 200 tribes together. 200 tribes. You bring over 200 tribes together. You want to govern them, right? You want to govern them. And you already have people who have already developed a legal system. The British common law took years to develop. By the way, it didn't develop just yesterday. They developed, and then they gave it to you. It's the same way that we are governing themselves in Europe. In Britain, that they came and said, okay, let us extend that. They even had each part of the British use policy of association, not policy of assimilation, which the French did. So, which means even though they are giving you common law, they customize it to fit your environment. If this, I'm going to sound like somebody who is an apologist for British colonialism, but let us call it what it is. They
But
try
I
to.
think you are, Frank.
No, but it's the truth. Let us talk about what happened. They try to make it fit into your society. Like, let us try and make it give you your version of it. That is why you can have British common law exist side by side with customary law. Like, they did not get, like the French got rid of customary law. They were like, damn your customary law, you're not going to practice it. But the British were like, no, you can practice your customary law as long as it does not run contrary to British common law. Side by side.
One of the most innovative things of common law is the idea of the reasonable person, right? So in law, when we're talking about someone having a crime, right, there's this standard of the reasonable person, right, which is something that, you know, has been introduced in our societies and in Africa, where when you're thinking about someone has committed a crime, you're not thinking about the position, the title they have, right, in determining whether or not this person is going to be found, you know, guilty or not guilty. You're just literally saying that, would a reasonable person in the same position as this person have acted in the same way, right? That is innovation. You know, that's
even the idea of like the rule of law. The rule of law is not an African thing. You think it came from Africans? We developed the rule of law. You think we developed democracy? These are principles that are
says that.
Yeah,
but that's what we are. But Frank,
okay,
if you let me land here, what I'm saying.
Okay,
I'm saying that I hear what you guys are saying. Common law is good. Common law, reasonable person, blah blah. I hear you. But when they discovered Africa, yeah, or when they found us swinging from branch to branch like the monkeys that we are, I am just saying that some of this common law and some of these reasonable people that you're putting on our heads were just enforced on us. It's not something that we knew. I'm saying there was never something. They didn't come with something that opened Africans to learn about themselves or to start having their own whatever.
They did. See, look, okay, there has never been a group of people that study Africans, that study African culture, that study Africanism, that study different, diverse facets of being African than Westerners. They are fascinated.
Law is bad. I'm not saying
we are less fascinated about our own like culture, history. We are less fascinated by it. They are more fascinated by it because history and stuff is something, this is their bread and butter. Like Africans, Westerners like to explore. That's why they came on ships and came over here. You would never have done that because exploring is not you in our team. No, let us tell ourselves the truth. Exploring is not in the black man's DNA. It's like, where am I going? Where? Enter that ship to where? You know, they are the people who like to explore. They want to understand. They want to discover. They learn, they study us. They study us. They're interested. When it comes to how to write in your local language, many African, you know, we didn't have scripts. Many African languages didn't have scripts. Like we didn't have letters and how we write. They were the ones that were like, okay, let us study this language and see how we can even give it an alphabet and how they can write in that language. It's not you that came up with that. I know many Igbo people now are busy writing in Igbo. They're like, yeah, you know that linguistics as a field of study is something that the Europeans came up with. It's not you that came up with it.
Me, I'm just saying, since they found us swinging from branch to branch, please, they should have allowed us to also make up laws for my next cousins in the next tree. That's what I'm saying.
This is the thing.
I don't think the
law that you don't understand how colonialism works. I
hear what you guys are saying, but I'm saying I don't think the way in which they put the laws on Africa, it came from an observe perspective rather than an experience perspective. That's what I am saying.
Okay.
I can observe everything from the sidewalks, but if I say go in that street, I probably cannot even walk in that street. Two different things.
The problem is, Exotic, it sounds kind of like you want to pick and choose what you want to benefit from with regards to the British, right? So it's like if you really want to go the whole way, you know, with this Pan-Africanist attitude, then you should be rocking a dashiki every day. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes,
like you should be like Dr. You should be like
But
Dr.
you like
Umar.
you like Gucci, oh. Don't mind. See, Omali
I
people
like
that use the
Gucci.
name.
I like
Omali,
Bottega.
they like
Sha.
Gucci. They like Prada.
I
You
like
understand? They like
Prada.
Louis Vuitton. They like
You can't be rocking that. You can't be rocking Louis V like that. You have to be rocking. You have to be like Dr. Umar. You know what I mean? That you gotta go the whole way. Don't just go halfway.
No,
You know what I'm
this is
go.
saying?
the
I don't
thing,
know.
guys. This is the thing. I have never said I only believe in one thing and I go down that route. No, if you
It
ask me a
sounds like
question
it.
right now, despite whether my answer in that moment is gonna I don't know what's the word. It's gonna go against my answer from previously what I've said. I believe what
Mm-hmm.
I believe in that moment. And right now, as I'm speaking right now in this moment, I believe that white people should not identify as Africans. Tomorrow, when I'm with my white friend and I take them to Africa, I would want him to identify as African. So when it benefits me, I change. That's the way the world is. Just the same way I'm a business, you see? I'm an LTD. When it benefits me, I change the laws.
I wonder, like Mugabe has to see the legacy he left. He needs to see what he's left.
That's the way I live my life.
You should be president. You should run for president.
I should. Everyone will be
Mugabe's
happy.
pinky will be Mugabe's pink. Your pinky will be bigger than Mugabe's tie. I'm telling you.
I feel like if she
So
were
yeah,
president,
I don't think what Africa suffers from for the most part is corruption, not colonialism. It's corruption, it's bad governance, and it's this demoralization that our government has succeeded in making many young people feel. Yeah, and that's why you have the brain drain in Africa, because Africans feel like they cannot. They really, we for example in Nigeria we had an election. People, this was the first election we had where the young people in this country were very enthusiastic. They were very
mm,
involved. They were very engaged. Before election politics, they were just it's old people that play that game. But you had young people for the first time. We are like, yes, we are going to come out in numbers and we are going to vote. And you could see it. It's not just something that you saw on
They
social media. Like when you
embarrassed
go to
you.
your polling station, I'm coming. When you go to your polling station, you could see it. Young people were interested. They wanted to vote somebody, and then they did all they had to do. Campaign. This was the first time I saw young people in Nigeria donate to a campaign, like political campaign. They were donating. I was shocked. Something that don't happen often. Raising funds for a campaign that they believed in, and after everything, the election in this country was clearly rigged. You can't expect the average Nigerian after that. We held a protest in December to protest police brutality, and how the government responded was by shooting the protesters. In case we've not given you enough brutality, let us send you to go and meet Jesus. That was the response. So it's just demoralization after demoralization. It's like, let us how far can we go in demoralizing
yeah.
the people?
I
And
don't
when
know,
you have a
Frank. Like
yeah, go
when
ahead.
I hear you speaking, you now you're saying, which I didn't know, that the populace, the young people in Nigeria, they're just not as politically inclined as maybe that you would like. But
Mm.
I'm starting to think maybe it wasn't rigged. Maybe a lot of the young people in Nigeria are just not educated enough. I mean, how many do you know how many? Okay, let's say maybe it was rigged, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But do people
Okay.
know about spoiled ballots? Like as an example, right, in South Africa, right, because of the rich political background, right, voting is before the elections, right? It's on TV, right? There's
Mhm.
adverts about how to vote. There's, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
it's a whole shebang. It's like it's an event, bro. It's like it's a
Mhm.
sports event.
Mhm.
It's a big deal.
Mhm.
When you go and vote, you get the mark on your thumb. It's a
Mhm.
whole thing. When you turn 18, you get excited to finally go and vote. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like a
Mhm.
very,
Mhm.
very educated young. I mean, Julius Malemo, you can see we have like the young people who are really, really fired up when it comes to politics and changing the country, and
Mhm.
so it just sounds like maybe with Nigeria, it's about moving that mobilization, maybe moving it online, right?
Okay.
Because it
But
seems that like
thi-
when it's in Nigeria, that like obviously there's a lot of obstacles in terms of the government. You said at local, state, and federal levels. So mobilizing online is a little bit easier. It's
I,
about
I,
being, like I
I
said.
I agree with you to a huge extent. I believe strongly that Nigerians are political illiterates. I am not going to deny that. Like when it comes to politics, not just why I say they are political illiterates, and also economic illiterates too, because they don't understand how government works and how the economy works. Many Nigerians are clueless about it. It's just recently people are even understanding how government policies affect or how the economy affects your currency and makes the value of your currency increase or decrease. Is when we started seeing the naira go from 400 to 700, from 700 to 1,000 in just the space of 3 months, and we're like, okay, why is this happening? So the first time we're like, whoa, what's going on? So now we are not learning these things, but prior to that, people didn't really care so much about how the economy and how government policies can affect the economy and stuff. And still there are many things about just politics, human rights, that Africans don't understand. The other day, just today before I came online, there was a news article about a Canadian Nigerian who was arrested for making threats.
Oh, the lady.
The lady for making threats, right?
Yeah.
And in the comments, people were like, yes, it's good for her. It's good for her. And I was looking at them and I'm like, tomorrow when the government tries to arrest you, you talk about free speech. It's like this free speech thing, you don't really understand like how it is supposed to work. Like you're still like new to this idea that people should not be arrested for saying things because somebody didn't like it. It's like, no, it's only the government, but because if they say something I don't like, arrest that person. So at the end of the day, you realize that even when it comes to free speech, Nigerians don't really understand it. So there are many, and it also speaks to something that Exotic said, even though she didn't mean it the way she said it, but it made sense in a way that common law, rule of law, democracy, these were things that we are handed over to Nigerians or to Africans, but was not explained to them. Like we have democracy, but we don't understand it. We have common law, but we don't understand it. The rationale behind. You have to study law. It was that I studied law that I understood. You study jurisprudence. You understand the reason behind the law. They're like, oh, now it makes sense. Now I get why this exists and why this should operate the way it is operating. Now I understand the reason behind it. It now makes sense for me. But many Nigerians just know, okay, we live here. We don't understand why. We don't understand what. We don't understand anything. So in a way, it's doomed to lead to people not really like taking advantage of the system on utilizing the system, but they end up abusing it, right? Because once the purpose of something or the reason behind something is not understood, it is bound to be abused and misused, right? So I will agree with you. Exotic,
Hi.
Wow.
So there is that. But this current election, why the youth, the younger people were energized was because somebody who understood how the government should work, how the economy should work, and was able to demonstrate it, was running for office. I mean, this is the first time you see a politician, somebody who is running for political office in Nigeria, give you breakdown of how the economy should work, give you a breakdown on how he is going to fix it. And you, even if you don't know anything, you understand everything he just said. And he had a track record. Right? He had a track record to back up everything he was promising to do. This was a very promising candidate, and that's why people rallied behind him. So it wasn't just that people that's why no, this was a promising candidate. We've never had a politician that spoke like him in recent years. And that was the truth.
But Frank, I think you're missing some things, right? So like, as an example, a lot of people get very surprised, right? Like when this guy, right, becomes the fact that this guy became president, right? They act so surprised, like the things that he says, and they just so, and it's like, you can have a great track record, like we're speaking about, right? You can break down complex political matters in ways that people can understand, right? But you will always lose against a person who uses emotion and knows how to rally up a crowd.
Yep.
You get what I'm
True.
saying?
True.
Like Trump knows how to say the things that get people going. He knows how to talk about those issues that make people polarized. You have to take a stance, right? So he's not here coming up with his nice suit and everything's tucked in. He's rough around the edges, You know what I mean? He doesn't always say the right thing. He doesn't. So people, the common man, sees himself in Trump, even though oddly enough he's a freaking billionaire. But because of the way that he speaks, the common man sees himself in that. A lot of time, people get they get turned off by the guy who looks clean, polished.
I agree. I agree.
It's intimidating.
I agree with you, but you need to see the person who won. And then the person is like Joe Biden won. He's like a Joe Biden, the Joe Biden of Africa. This guy is like 95% in the grave. The remaining 5% was running for office. Charismatic 0. Policy 0. In fact,
but you know what? No, Frank.
He will forget what he said. And then in fact, sometimes he will say, and everybody in the audience is clapping because they were paid to clap. There are clips of this. I'm not making it up. This guy was able to energize no one. Even himself was not energized.
No, I hear what you're saying there, but like you said, how old is Tinubu?
How old is that young man? What is his official age?
Yes, you see, I think Tinubu is 90 something.
No, he's 70. He's 70 something.
That man is also 70.
Yeah.
That man is not 72. He's not. No, he's not. Let me get his official
age. That's a Nigerian age, yeah.
That's his official age. That this man is not somebody whose birth certificate we did not even see. Somebody whose not birth certificate, his graduation. No, there are so many things about Tinubu. I beg. Let me not even go into that. We are not here to talk about Nigeria. We're here to talk about Africa.
I'm the next Mrs. Tinubu. Anyway, let me carry on. Speaking about my husband, Mr. Tinubu. So you guys, the way in which you have to look at it, you have to look at it from perspective of you guys don't have to be playing on about experience here, right? Think about it. Let's say you went to Harvard or you went to Howard, whenever that was, or you went to London School of Economics, whenever that was, right? Think about how long he's been in politics for. Think about how long he's been in business for, right? Think about the connections he's made.
Okay.
Think of like all those things. That kind of plays part in the reason why he won, to be honest.
True.
So I think sometimes as young people, for you to say, let's rally behind the young person, sometimes that young person doesn't have enough experience for us to be like, let's vote for them, one. And second of all, they don't have enough experience to have enough sponsors in their back pocket that's going to sponsor their campaign, etc. So there's other things that also come to play when it comes to the idea of why somebody wins. I feel like majority of these people, they win their political campaign way before we even get to vote. Way before.
That is another way of saying the election was rigged. Yes, that's what I'm saying. The powers that be said, Tinubu bought the powers that be.
So should people not be allowed to sponsor elections?
Tinubu bought the election. That election was bought and paid for by Tinubu. He bought the officials, bought the judges, in fact, he made people drop from the race by buying them off. Like in the primaries, he was buying off people who, this was a known fact. During the primaries, the APC primaries, dollars was flowing like the Nigerian economy was like Solomon was in charge of the Nigerian economy. It was milk and honey. Money was changing hands. People were dropping from race. People were like, we are not going to drop. We will have a primary tomorrow. They're like, I'm here to endorse. I was like, okay.
Wow.
Come on. See, Nigerian politics was bought and paid for. There are people who we are hopeful. Although me, it's just like I'm a very pessimistic person. I felt strongly that Peter Obi would not win because I knew that this is how this country is very corrupt. But I was open to the idea. Let me see. I wish I was wrong. I kept, even my brother then, I was telling him, I wish when I tell you that this man will not win, I wish I'm wrong. I'm not saying it happily. It's like I sadly am knowing that. I mean, one of the funny things that happened, the people who we are hopeful that Peter Obi will win, they took the case to court, to election tribunal, right? Election tribunal. Sorry, let me just give you, I will soon stop talking about Nigeria. Before the election tribunal was created and they started looking at the petition that was brought to them that there was election fraud, Tinubu has already been sworn in as president. And somebody who is sworn in as president, one of the powers you have is to decide who the CJN will be. That is the Chief Justice of Nigeria. You decide who he will be. And the
Nice.
CJN is the person who would decide who will sit on that tribunal and judge the case against him.
Wow. Wow.
And I'm like, are you guys not seeing what I'm seeing? And they were like, nah, don't worry, Peter Obi will win. I said, oh yeah, let's see the miracle that will happen. When I am the one that is the judge of my case, I will lose. All right, let's let's see how it will happen. And of course, he lost. Like, of course, he will lose. And in few months after the case was decided, the salaries of the judges was increased.
Wow, man.
What do you think happened? Of course,
bro.
Nigeria has happened. That's what we call it. They said Nigeria has happened in the election. Anyways, that is with the question. I don't know if there's anything you guys want to add to the problem in Africa and colonialism.
What's up? Let me just ask. What's up, Nigerians and the obsession with South Africans being xenophobic when you guys are so tribal against each other? What's this obsession with xenophobia? I don't get it. What's going on?
Well, we've had like headlines, and I don't know how true they are because I just read the headlines of xenophobic attack. We see it every time. So Nigerians will say, we will clown you, we'll do this, but we will not attack you, we will not burn your house, we will not kill you. Except if you are in the north, though, but that's a different story. All right. So we're like,
the problem with xenophobia in South Africa is not just by Nigerians. I think it's by all Africans and versus South Africans.
So it's even something I want you to talk about. Like, this xenophobia.
I think the way in which South Africans have gone about to cause uproar about the number of illegal immigrants or legal immigrants that are entering the country, they've gone about in the wrong way. They've gone about in a very sadistic way.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you, Exotic. How should people go? I'm not saying killing is never right? So, I mean, you're from Zimbabwe, right? And Zimbabwe is already okay. Yeah, she disappeared. But you Frank, right?
Yeah.
Or even her, right? So you
back?
guys are from you're back.
You're back.
So you guys are from Nigeria and Zimbabwe, respectively, right?
Okay.
So it's already an absolute mess there. Okay. Now take 50 million undocumented people, right, into your country, right? And what happens is when they enter your country, they're undocumented. So if they commit crimes, you can't find them. Right.
Yes.
They become overrepresented in certain crimes, in drug crimes, in prostitution, in human trafficking. They become overrepresented. Right. So imagine, Frank, in your area, there are South African pastors that are openly scamming Nigerian mothers. Right. Imagine. I'm just saying. Imagine. Think about this. Imagine you're 60. Like, with my respect to you, but a 16-year-old female relative of yours, being in a relationship with a 50-year-old pastor, a South African pastor. Right. You see these things a lot. Right. And then you've got 12-year-old. I mean, like. As a South African,
where were the parents?
Hang on, let me just land. I'm gonna tell you, Exotic. Let me just land with this, Exotic.
Honestly.
So you have a lot of Ethiopians, Somalis, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, Zimbabweans, right, that were caught just in the last week, right? So a little child will go to the shops to go and buy something, right? When they go there and buy, right, they're young, they're like 7 or 8 or whatever. The shopkeeper, who's a foreign national, no documents, but he's trying to earn a living, right? Then he grapes the little girl. It's hard to find him, right? And in the past week, there've been quite a few of them that's happened. There was an Ethiopian man who raped a 7-year-old. There's a Congolese man who raped an 11-year-old, like all in South Africa, right? So you have to understand that the frustration with that and the fact that now police can't find them because they don't have documents. You are a father. You are a father. Okay. Your 7-year-old has just come to you and said that, Dad, it was that guy over there. But the documents that he has are saying something totally different because he has fake documents. So you can't get the justice you deserve. I'm not justifying the killing. I'm just saying, can you understand the collective anger? I'll just say one more point and then I'll land. On top of that, let's say you have a pregnant wife, right? Because foreign nationals that go to South Africa, they congregate in the townships where there's already a strain on the resources that are available. Let's say there's only a certain amount of injections for young mothers, right? Now and this happens a lot, especially with Zimbabwean women that cross the border over into South Africa, right? There was a program, it's still available on YouTube, where this lady goes to a hospital and she's interviewing new mothers and she thinks they're South African. She's like, "Hi, mama, like, how does it feel being, a new mom?" Like I said to you, in South Africa, you can speak at least 4 or 5 languages. That shouldn't be difficult to answer, right? But the person who was speaking had no idea what was being said. She was just smiling to the camera. The lady went to the next lady over, right? A new mother, right? Person didn't understand the language as well. That whole line there was just foreign nationals, people that come to South Africa just to give birth, putting a strain on the resources. So now, imagine your wife, a South African woman, who needs the medication, needs the formula, needs whatever it is for your child. Born in South Africa, raised in South Africa, but you're not able to because people are coming across the border because you know what? Yeah, they need it as well.
I get.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I get the explanation for it, and I empathize. Like,
I don't empathize. I don't empathize.
We know. Exotic. Aima. We know. We are well aware. Okay. But I empathize. I strongly do. It's just you can understand. Do you understand when I say like violence and killing like migrants is not the way? I would say, of course, we all know the obvious solution to this is like having a border, like that. Also having strong law enforcement, trying to enforce the law more. Having law enforcement that actually enforce the law, deport people, arrest them, go after these people, be strong and forceful about it, and doing all the. It shouldn't be when one is competing in Miss Universe, then they're like, "Oh, let's go and investigate her." Do these investigations and really, really enforce your laws, so that anybody who is coming into South Africa will know that this is a very law-abiding citizen. That is the solution, but we all know that will not happen.
But see, I think South Africa is disrespected, though. There's just no, you see, in Botswana, they have the death penalty. So there, people, they know they don't play around, they don't mess about. But South Africa is just treated like a playground, right? And I'm telling you, South Africans are actually fed up. They're actually fed up. I don't know if I was talking to you or was I talking to. No, I wasn't talking to you, but the OPA 6, you know OPA 6?
No, not really.
OPA 6. Okay, OPA 6. This guy in Nigeria, right? No, he's in South Africa. Okay. Now he's wanted by the EFCC in Nigeria. They put out his image on Instagram. He's a wanted man. He's been wanted since 2021. Wow. Where is he? He's in South Africa. He's posting on Instagram, having a great life. Oof. Another guy as well. Another guy as well was interviewed by just a social media guy driving a Bentley. On the EFCC page on Instagram, he's wanted in Nigeria. He's wanted in the US for scamming and fraud. Where is he? In South Africa. You understand?
The South African economy.
So no, it's not helping the South African economy because he's there to steal as well. He continues the same thing.
No,
at least he steals from these old corrupt people and he puts it back in the economy. Don't worry. He's giving it back.
Like Evie said, she said if they break the law by coming to the country illegally, it makes sense that they wouldn't respect any other law. True. If they would not even come to the country legally,
guys, can I just say something, right?
Go ahead.
I know Neo went on a rant about kids being raped, being what, being what. Guys, honestly, I stop having children and then expecting other people to be responsible for your little children. If you don't have time to take care of your children, stop laying down with women and ejaculating. It's just that simple. Don't have children if you cannot take care of them. I'm a community. I'm not responsible for taking care of your child.
Wait, what are you talking about?
I am saying the bottom.
You don't say that. You don't say that. Somebody's child is.
I can say that.
No.
What is
this? This is classic. I don't usually say this, but this is classic victim blaming. Come on.
What is it?
What do you mean? saying.
Oh yeah,
You're
no,
like, oh,
exotic. Okay,
So
okay. I
you
just
have
caught what
children
I
and
just
you're
caught what you
expecting me to
said.
keep your child safe. You expect
No,
me to keep your
exotic, but
child
you
safe.
can't say that. That's like you saying exotic. Like for example, something happens to the child at school. Like as a parent, you can't be there 24/7.
you can't be there every time.
Then my
And
child
then
will be
you have
homeschooled. Just that
it
simple,
shouldn't
guys.
shouldn't the street be safe? Shouldn't the street be safe that a child can go buy something from a nearby store and return unharmed? Shouldn't the street be safe?
It should be, but it's not.
And why is it not safe? Because of migrants.
No, that's not the reason. There's a man in South Africa that was going around spreading HIV/AIDS because he hated women. Was he an
Okay,
immigrant?
okay. Let's do this. Put this name into your into Google. Okay, Godfrey. Godfrey. Put this name. I'm gonna put it into the chat. Right. Put Godfrey Zaburoni. Okay, Godfrey Zaburoni. Yeah, look up that name and look up that story of the Godfrey Zaburoni. Okay, because I'm in Australia. Okay, look up Godfrey Zaburoni. The other thing about South Africa, right, is that there are a lot of people that they say these things that sound like they're true, but they're not true. Things like, oh, South Africa has the highest HIV rate. It's like, no,
But it
a lot
does.
of Africa, no. In fact,
It
in
does.
Zimbabwe, it's higher. In fact, in Zimbabwe, it's higher. You guys just don't have the infrastructure to be able to count. So let's not even go there, right? You don't even have
Okay,
the
based
equipment.
on
You don't
those
have
that
the
we've
equipment.
counted,
You don't have the
and based on the
equipment.
South African numbers that we've
No,
counted, in comparison, if we take
The
exotic.
10
beef
people in
between
South
the beef
Africa,
between
5
Nigeria,
of
the
them
beef
are
between South
HIV
Africa and
positive.
Zimbabwe
If
is
we take
real.
10 people
Guys,
from
if there's
South
nothing you
Africa,
learn,
maybe 3
it's
of
real.
them are from Zimbabwe. It doesn't
Let me tell
matter.
you.
There's more HIV
Let me tell
infected
you.
working people in South Africa than Zimbabwe. And that's a
Frank,
fact.
can you read Godfrey Zaburoni say? Did you bring
Let
up
me,
Godfrey Zaburoni?
let me read it.
Just bring up the first article.
Yeah, yeah, it's the first
Or the
article
second
from
one.
Australia.
Or the second
Even
one. The second one from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. Yeah.
okay, it's called. Let me see if I can share my screen here.
Yeah.
Share screen.
Um,
Interesting things are happening, guys. That you people look smaller. I don't know how it will look. Yeah,
yeah.
all of
No,
us will
that's all
look
good.
smaller.
Oh, right. It
It's
looks
all
a
good.
little bit small. Okay, cool. That's all good. Yeah.
All right, all right.
So
Let me enlarge this a little bit. Migrant living in with HIV deported to Zimbabwe in case that went on.
to the High Court, and he's not the only Zimbabwean that has been caught doing that here in Australia. You know what I mean? We need to stop the cap. Let's stop the cap. But the point is this, right? The point is this, right? Um, if we're going to be honest, then we also have to hold one another accountable. Okay, so you say South Africans, right? I understand your anger. I understand that you're fed up with people coming into the country. They're using up the resources. They're not respecting their laws. They're they're graping your children. We understand that has caused a lot of anger, right? But do not take the law into your own hands, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like,
And
okay, and then it's like, okay, so someone like you, Frank, I expect you to then, like I don't put pressure on you to speak. I mean, you already do it, but to speak out against fellow Nigerians who do the wrong thing.
true. Like it's part of the Nigerian problem, which is law breaking for many Nigerians is a common is an is I'm not saying Nigerians are criminals. Okay, I'm not saying that, but we have a good population of Nigerians who have no problem with breaking the law. And
Good
funny enough,
population, 90% of Nigerians.
calm down. We've not even started. There's no beef between Nigeria and Zimbabwe. I don't know why you have to start coming for us. I thought we are good. I thought your man.
No, we're
I
very
thought you
good.
were from Nigeria. I thought we
We're
had a
very
But
good
good.
relationship. What's going on? What's all this?
by the way, Frank, you do know that, like, even with HIV, I'm now just bringing it up because Exotic happened to mention it, but that in Africa, the place with the highest women that give birth to children with HIV, you know what that is?
It's gonna be Zimbabwe. You hate Zimbabwe
No,
so
it's
much, yeah.
Nigeria. It's Nigeria.
No, I was
It's
waiting for it to be
look
like
at you.
Zimbabwe.
We were hoping you'd win that. It's not a competition.
She
You
was
want to
already
win.
ready. She was like, "I'm ready for any attack. Bring it. I'm ready. I'm ready for any attack."
It's Nigeria. It's
Yes, you
Nigeria.
are.
It's
Wow,
Nigeria.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. We are learning every day.
Yeah, it's actually Nigeria. But like even things like, I mean, now they're starting to clean up. I mean, if you can use that word, in South Africa, right? They're arresting illegal migrants, and Chidima just happened to be the one who's most high profile, right? But many more are being arrested, right? Like it's being reported every single day. Right? They're being loaded up into vans, and I feel like they're just gonna come back anyway. Right after they serve their 5 years or whatever it is, they're just going to come back. Right? So, but I look at this whole thing like, rather than say South Africans are so xenophobic, exotic, why aren't you holding your own government accountable? You have so much energy for South Africa and zero energy for MSM Mnangagwa. I haven't heard you say one thing about
Now let me
what's wrong with
answer.
Zimbabwe.
Let me
You're
answer
fine.
this.
I need you to just be able to just hold your people. One of the biggest problems that we have in South Africa is that Zimbabweans will come to South Africa to fight for their rights to stay in South Africa illegally. Right? They'll never fight in Zimbabwe, bruh. You know what I mean? Like
Should I
tell
answer
South
you?
and then they'll try to fight South African policemen in South Africa. They wouldn't dare do that in Zimbabwe. They'll get their asses kicked. But go ahead. Go ahead.
I think the reason why we don't hold our own governments, or you guys think we don't hold our own governments accountable, is with the two separate issues. Issues of somebody's life being under threat or from being burned alive because they're seeking for greener pastures is a completely different issue to the reason why somebody had to run away from the beginning to seek for greener pastures. Now this is somebody that thinks now they're in a position where they can help themselves, help their family, have a future. Instead, they're in a place where they're actually threatened by death. Do you get what I'm saying? Which I understand they shouldn't be there in the beginning, but that's a separate issue, a complete separate issue.
I'm not sure I
Don't
understand.
make it sound. But the problem is that you guys make it
I
sound
do
like
not
South
think,
Africans were killing
and
everyone every
I
single
do not
time. This was an
think,
isolated incident. That's all.
no,
This wasn't
and I do
continuously
not.
happening.
And I do not think
True.
that just because the Zimbabwean government has failed its citizens and they've had to flee to South Africa for greener pastures, I do not think that is a justifiable reason for any thug or hooligan in South Africa to put a tire on a human being and burn them alive.
The problem
Fair.
is the problem
Fair, but
is
it
in
doesn't
South
happen
Africa.
all the
But the problem is in South Africa, right? Like I gave you the example before, right? So two black men, right? They killed two black women and fed them to pigs. Those were Zimbabwean women. Men, right? And here's one thing that South Africans are starting to see, and I'm really sorry, but you gotta catch some strays here, exotic, right? Is that there are a
Who
lot of
said Sweden
Zimbabwean
is a
people.
shithole? I want to come to
You make it look
Stockholm.
like she has not been catching strays.
Bro, there are a lot of Zimbabweans calling themselves South African, right? And they get away with it because they can speak Zulu, but they're actually
Then go and
Zimbabwean.
learn Shona. Then go and learn Shona.
No, it's not about me learning Shona. I know how to speak
Hey,
Shona, but I
if
think
you
What is
it's
the
do you wanna
benefit?
about
no
no.
What
wait
is
wait
the
wait
Listen,
economic
no
listen,
benefit
listen.
of
no
learning?
let's make it easy for you.
Okay,
Let's
okay.
make it
Let
easy
me
for
do this.
you. Let's make
Let me
it easy. Do you want to identify
tell
as a Zimbabwean?
me.
Do you want to identify as a
God,
Zimbabwean?
Why?
listen.
Why?
Okay.
No, I'm
Listen.
asking you a question. Do you want to identify as a Zimbabwean?
Why?
Are you talking to
What
me or you
is the
talking to Frank?
what's the
To
For sure
you,
economic
you're not
Modern.
talking.
significance of doing
For
To
that?
you,
sure you're not
Modern.
talking. For sure you're not
Modern,
talking
do
to
you want to
me.
identify as a Zimbabwean? No,
Listen,
you do not.
I
No,
would
you do
I
not.
would rather start my life from scratch in
Yeah.
Nigeria as it is, right? In between Boko Haram and there's no way. I'm
But
telling you,
that's what I'm
I'd
saying
rather,
to you. And then there's
I'd rather
somebody
live.
else called Exotic in Zimbabwe. They want to identify as South African. And they have gone and they've learned Zulu, and now they think they can identify as South African. That's their right. If you don't want to identify as
No, you can't
Zimbabwean,
just be. You like
then that's your right.
trans-African. You
If
can't
you
just.
do,
You
I
guys are
am
just.
transnational, baby. I am transnational.
Whenever it fits her better. Let's see, she has told you what she's allegiant to. She's allegiant to
Ah,
what will benefit her.
In
But
that moment,
if we can summarize this, let's just move on from the whole tribe. We're supposed to be past tribalism and talking about colonialism, but
Okay.
we are now back
Let's
on
not make,
tribe.
look. I think a lot of that was just built up for a while. I don't feel like that like on a regular basis. I really don't have any sort of ill will towards Zimbabweans. I really don't. Right.
Mm.
But I think I really think that Zimbabweans need to show more pride, man. We need to see more pride for people in their countries. Like people, like as much as I'm in Australia right now, right, going back to South Africa doesn't frighten me. Like if tomorrow Australians were just like out, you know what I mean? I'll be happy to go back home. You know what I'm saying?
The UK
I
should
really
not try
like.
it as what
Just
should be
thinking
going
about
back to
that,
South Africa.
huh?
I said the UK should not try it with exotic because where she will be going back to South Africa.
no,
Exotic,
I
you've been
can't
catching
live in
strays
South
tonight,
Africa.
girl.
Too many hooligans in South Africa. They'll burn me alive. Too
Stop.
Oh
many
no,
Just
thugs.
stop.
they will not.
It happened like what? First of all, you're doing the Nigerian thing where you say in South Africa they'll burn you, and yet in Zimbabwe, what they do to political dissidents is way where people vanish.
Like who? Give us an
True.
Like
example.
people vanish,
True.
right?
Come
Like,
on, you
Who
are
who
exactly
vanished?
what you like.
ah. Oh,
Give
Don't
by
do
us.
the
this.
way,
Anyway,
Frank,
you know what? Let us move on.
exotic is
Let's
we're gonna move on, but one more thing. Exotic is in she's connected, so she's always gonna say positive things about Zimbabwe. You know what I mean?
okay. That's
Yeah.
now the next question I want to ask is African culture misogynistic?
Yes, and I love it.
All right. Exotic, explain your answer.
Okay, first of all, like how are we identifying misogyny? Is misogyny a negative thing or a positive thing in this scenario?
Misogyny is a negative thing. Misogyny is like women being treated as lesser than women, not
Yes, they
having
should.
like basic some of the necessary rights that they deserve in a society, or are not seeing their femininity not being celebrated and respected. Essentially, that is what I'm talking. I'm not talking about misogyny in the sense that the feminists you see in the UK talk about. I'm talking about misogyny in the actual sense. Is African culture misogynistic?
Yes, it is misogynistic, but it's designed to be that way.
Okay, so why do you say that? Like, what are the examples of misogyny in African culture?
I think if we're gonna use one of the biggest ones that I think goes for majority of African countries, will probably be bride price.
Okay.
The idea of that, I feel like, is it to buy somebody or is it to appreciate their mama? I don't really know which one it is, but I think the reason why it becomes as if you're buying someone sometimes, I think it's about the value their parents put on that child. And yeah.
Okay, what do you think, modern man? Is African society misogynistic?
Look, it can be,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
But I think the type of misogyny that we see in the West is not quite the way that it is in African societies, right? But there are instances of extreme misogyny, right? I mean, you see it all the time. I don't know if you've seen it all the time, like on Twitter with women complaining about being abused by their husbands, etc., and men feeling like because they've paid the bride price that they own a woman, right? Like men who don't understand, right, or who are under the influence or look up to people like an Andrew Tate or something like that, right? I think misogyny in African culture, as they like say, as the ladies like saying, misogynoir. You know what I mean? To an extent, yes, right. But I think that it's more about respect to the woman. To be honest with you, that's how I look at it.
When I think is Africa misogynistic? My answer to that is Yes, there are many instances of misogyny in Africa. Like Exotic mentioned, the bride price thing can be seen. I'm not saying it is, but it can be seen that way. The people who might interpret it as that, even though I don't necessarily do. But there are other instances like FGM, female genital mutilation, that is rampant in Somalia, for example. That is an example of a very barbaric misogynistic practice, right? Uh, where you see some parts, especially in northern Nigeria, in northern Africa, not just northern Nigeria, northern Africa, some parts of West Africa, where child marriage is still practiced. That is misogyny. There was something funny that happened today. So I was watching TikTok videos where white women were talking about they were white and one black woman. We are one black woman, but majority white women. They were talking about micro feminism, and they were like, micro feminism is where you subtle way of getting achieving feminism. So the white women were like, the example of of micro feminism is uh, when they want to write a letter, the person they are addressing, the man they are addressing. Let's say the person they are addressing is a man, but the secretary is a woman, and the letter or the mail, not a letter, the mail is being addressed to both the man and the secretary. They'll put the secretary's email first and then the boss's email second. That's their form of microfeminism and stuff like that. And I was watching it and I was just laughing. I was like, come to Africa and let's talk about microfeminism, where there are certain things women are not allowed to do in some societies. There are certain ways women are treated in some societies in Africa that is very, very misogynistic. I mean,
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah?
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's say you've got a pet dog, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The pet dog can only feed on I don't know, can only feed on rats.
Okay.
Right? And then me, Neo, you and other people, we all go and we catch rats for your pet dog, and then we come and then we feed your pet dog with the rats. Can we call your pet dog a rat murderer?
Sorry, what is the significance? What is the significance of this question?
I'm trying to say misogyny.
Yeah, maybe it's the rat murderer. I don't know. Like,
you're on mute, Modern.
No, I was actually just I forgot what I was saying. Sorry.
No.
Yeah, what's the connection? I was literally trying to say, what's the connection?
Okay, the connection being the way I look at misogyny. For me, I look at misogyny as this pet that every man has. Whether you want to have that pet or you don't want to have that pet, every man has that pet. You see? That pet is fed by some very extreme things. Some things that you might not even subscribe to, right? But if the society that you live in goes and do all those bad things in your behalf, does that make you the person that has the pet, the murderer, or the person that's committing those crimes? That's what I'm asking.
I don't agree with the hypothesis of your question that misogyny is a pet that men possess, because I believe so. No, this is the reason why I don't agree. Misogyny, which is something, it also is that's why when feminists talk about like dealing with misogyny in society, one of the things that make them lose like men is that they make it look like it is the man's fault. I think when you have a misogynistic society, it is a societal issue. Look at every form of misogyny that you might think of, and you see that there are women who are participators and enforcers of it. FGM is being conducted by women. Okay,
that's exactly what I am saying. Listen to what I'm saying.
I'm coming.
That's
I'm coming.
the same thing I'm saying about. Okay,
yeah. So, but okay. Look at, there's this one that used to be practiced. I don't know if it is still practiced in some parts of Nigeria, where if a man dies, the wife will have to go through certain rituals. She will shave her head. She'll be made to drink the water of that is used to wash the body of the late husband. She'll be forced to drink it, to take an oath that she did not kill her husband. and so many things to be done to her. And the people who are enforcers of that are women. So that's why when my dad used to say, people who took the rights of women, other women. That's how he says it. Who took the rights of women, other women. You know, like I'm not blaming everything on women, but I'm saying it's a society. Everybody contributed in making sure this system exists. Whatever you call it, whether it's the patriarchal, all of us contributed in its existence. We all contributed. We are all guilty of it. Can all of us change together? You understand? But when it comes to misogyny, African societies are deeply. I will not even like. There's this one that happens in South Africa, and I want to ask you about it. There's this. I don't know whether it's a cultural practice. I don't know whether it is also happening in Zimbabwe and stuff, where ladies like dress in a particular way, where like they are scantily dressed. Yes,
that's not scantily. That's traditional, bro.
Okay. When I look at that, that's pretty misogynistic to me. You know, I'm just saying.
But it is misogynistic.
But if you're looking at it from a Western lens, then you're sexualizing the body, right? Because we got to remember, before they landed on our shores, we was walking around letting everything hang out, right? They changed this. So if you look at it from that perspective, then of course you're going to look at it like that. Because unfortunately, again, globalization, we're becoming one big village, and unfortunately, what that culture values are, they're very Western inclined, right? It's Western values, right? They're the ones that take precedence, I would argue, right? And so when we see a young woman who's wearing traditional clothes and her breasts are showing, rather than literally you just showed, rather than look at that as, oh, this is their traditional clothes, you're like, wow, that is scantily clad, right? Because when you say someone is scantily clad, you're pretty much saying that there's material missing. You know what I mean? Like they're exposing themselves, right? Whereas traditional clothing, that's the full thing. There's nothing.
That's an interesting tradition. Let me not criticize it too much because I don't know much about it. You know, but if you,
so that tradition is misogynistic, then?
No, it's not misogynist.
He's saying from a cultural perspective, it's not.
Yeah,
from the African cultural perspective. If you look at it through the Western perspective, you'll be like, there's something wrong with this. And I've had like critics of it, and I've fair to say they're looking at it from a Western perspective. Fair enough. But why I'm not going to go further on that is that I don't really understand the traditional bag. If you want to call it misogynistic, you have to call it misogynistic from the traditional bag, and I'm not really versed in that, so I cannot speak to that, essentially. So, but yeah, I'm very sure if you look even in South African culture, you look in I'm very sure in Zimbabwe you'll find a lot. If you look in every culture that you have in different African society, you see like practices that are like, this is bad, like this is wrong. I'm not talking, the man is getting 2, the woman is getting 1. That's not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking the woman is treated like trash, kind of misogyny, right? And you find it in many. The good thing is that many African societies are trying to like stray away from some of this practice and are becoming more egalitarian, but you still find pockets of it in rural communities.
Well, the question is, right, this idea of a woman taking a man's name, is that misogynistic? Like,
Yeah.
because I guess again, it depends on your values, right? If you're a person who values individualism more, right, and you sort of, in a way, lost your sense of community, then you view changing of the name as you losing your units. You want to be an independent, right? But if you are still in touch with, I guess your tribal nature, the community, the fact that, we're all one, we're social creatures, then you won't see it as misogynist. You just see it as, it's just a part of tradition.
Yeah, I don't see like the man taking a man's last name as misogyny. There are people who do, but I don't. It's of course, again, in today's day and age, especially in Nigeria, for example, nobody's forcing you. I've seen couples who got married and still kept their last name, right? So nobody's like saying, hey, you have to take my name. These days, women are like, I want to keep my name, and they're allowed to. But essentially, I really do not think it is misogynistic because I just think it's customary, right? You take the man's last name as opposed to what him taking your name. Especially when you live in a society where inheritance and stuff is paternal. So when you live in such a society, okay, if it is a society where like in Ghana, for example, where like a matriarchal society where the child belongs to the woman, not to the man, not the other way around. Is it misandry? Of course not. It's just how each society chooses to order itself. So
That's kind of weird, though.
yeah, in Ghana it's the other way around. That's what people don't know. In Ghana it's the other way around. You take your mother, I think it's your mother's father's name or something. I don't know how it works, but in Ghana it's the other way around. Even it's the woman that pays the I think in some, I'm not sure if it's in all, but it's the woman that pays the bride price, not
All right. Now
But
that,
like in my perfect world, like if I was to create the culture of my future husband
Mhm.
and or what they practice wherever he's from, it'd be those
Mm.
people that like once they pay your bride price, you can no longer talk. Like I no longer I'm no longer allowed to talk. I'm no longer allowed to like have opinions. I'm not allowed to I'm basically stuck in the house. That's what I want.
That is why
you
in the
know,
other live stream we did on. That's why in the other
The
live
only
stream
time
we
I can
did on.
talk is in my bedroom. That's the only time I can talk.
You should go to Afghanistan. They are looking for you. They are waiting for you. They would love to have you there. They will not be seen. They will not.
exotic, right? I if you would have said this a few weeks ago, right? I probably would have thought the same thing that Frank is saying, right? That like, you probably do well in Afghanistan or something like that. But now I've started sort of looking at it differently, right? In that it sounds like, as weird as it sounds, it sounds like you actually just yearn for love. And people are gonna say, like,
Maybe.
how does that sound like love? But let me just explain. People are just gonna say, like, how does that sound like love? But I think we've all seen you here today. You have a strong personality, right? And I think that you are not scared to make yourself vulnerable because you know that you won't lose yourself in that vulnerability.
Mm.
You understand? And so when you say the things that you say, like you just want to just not talk, you just don't, you only speak it, it's that making yourself vulnerable to truly immerse yourself and truly experience someone else and be vulnerable within their presence.
Like be submissive.
It, pretty much,
Yeah.
That's that's
Like I
that's
want to
what I'm hearing.
submit to my marriage. Yeah, for sure.
But other people definitely hear that you do well in Afghanistan, 1,000%. Right there. I'm just, I'm just saying they don't play out there. You know what I mean? But anyway, what's the time where you guys are at? Because it's
Oh, we live in a very good time zone. It's 7:56 p.m. For you. You're already in the next day, and it's 5 a.m. for you in Australia.
5 a.m. Yeah, it's
That's
5 a.m. I gotta make some moves soon because
yeah.
yeah,
Let's see.
I'm getting old.
Let's
But
see.
what, do you want to answer a couple more questions?
Yeah. Let's just see if we can do like quick answers to just some of the questions and see how we can
All
get
right, cool.
out of here. Okay.
All right,
Simple answer: is bride
right.
price misogynistic?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Agenda roles, African gender roles, are they misogynistic?
No.
Nah.
Okay. I agree with that. The bride price part, I'm undecided. I'm yet to decide. How do we improve the treatment of women in Africa? Especially when you think about FGM, when you think about child marriage, when you think about women going through ridiculous burial rites, when you think about like places that are Islamic and the things they do to women over there, how do you think Africa can improve its treatment of women?
I think as a man, lead by
Mm.
example. But also, if you see something, say something, right? Speak up for people that don't have a voice,
Okay.
right?
Exotic,
And
what do
I
you
think,
think?
yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
exotic.
Keep our issues at home. Why do we allow outsiders to come and dictate what's going on in our house?
All right. This. My answer is this one. This answer you just said. Yeah. Education. I believe one of the ways is education, economic development, and the destruction of the grip of Islam in Africa to do a lot to liberate women. Next question. Let me see. What is your view on how your tribe treats homosexuals and homosexuality?
That's
Okay,
a
say that
great
again. Say
question.
the sorry. Can you ask that question? Ask that question
How
again.
does your What is your view on how your tribe views and treats homosexuals and homosexuality?
Mm. Exotic
For
sounded like you.
me, I don't know because, like Mugabe said, we don't believe in gays.
Yeah, we are not
So,
gays. That's what he said. We are
uh,
not gays.
so
Why
I
are
don't
you
even know.
gay?
We are not gays.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for me as a South African, I'll keep saying it. People can deny it as much as they want. South Africa is like America. It's just this thing has been a law since 2006. Gay people have been able to get married in South Africa since 2006, right? So to us, it is what it is, you know. Like, I mean, I have a relative who came out like way older than me, you know, and it's just like,
Guys, can I say
and
something
In South Africa,
controversial?
it's just been like that for a long time. To be honest with you, it's just one of those things where it's just like it doesn't even you don't even it doesn't even make you look twice anymore.
Can
You
I
Is
say
know,
what it is.
something controversial?
Go
I
ahead,
yeah,
shoot.
genuinely believe, I think South Africa is like an industry plant. Like,
yeah.
if that makes sense.
Go ahead.
I believe the rightful brick country in Africa, the rightful owner of the name brick, was meant to be Nigeria. However, the World Bank and the IMF were like, if we give these Nigerians power, Nigerians are arrogant. You cannot give them power, that type of power. So they had to divert that to elsewhere. They had to give it to South Africans, but South Africans are sissies. They just allow white people to do whatever they want to do. So they're just like, let's give it to South Africans.
You got some nerve, I swear, man. You know, have you ever had someone literally
But
coming,
Nigerians are arrogant though. Jan,
bruh?
that one you said is true. Nigerians are freaking out. No matter how poor, disadvantaged, less privileged the Nigerian man is. Pride, Mganga. His pride is through the roof. Okay, he's
I
too
think
proud.
I think
That is true.
that's what eats Nigerians because they're proud, but South Africa keeps getting the love and they hate it. It burns. You know what I mean? It's that just don't stop. You know what I mean? Like we spoke about it the other day, like in Wakanda, in Black Panther, they speak in South
Yeah, it
African
was all
languages.
the
Lion
accent was all
King.
South
So
African. There was no and they were
it
like they are
burns.
representing Africa. I'm like, which people should stop that. This is a South African movie. Black Panther, I'm telling you now, in case you guys don't know, Black Panther is a South African movie made by South Africans for
Oh
South
man.
Africans, representing South Africa. There is no Africa in that movie. They went and located Wakanda in somewhere in between Central Africa. They should go and relocate it back to South Africa. That's where it is. Okay? They
That's
did
a
not
fact.
speak
That's a
one
fact.
accent from the place that they said Wakanda is located. Very annoying. But I was like, these people
No,
did not
no,
do
but
no
guys, I'll
research.
be
This
honest
is
with
not
you
correct.
guys. As much as
Uh,
Nigerians are annoying and everything, right? If I was to die and then they were to tell me you can pick a new nationality and come back as, oh, I'm coming back as an Igbo girl. I'm telling you, shaking my waist. I'm telling you, I'm coming back as Nigerian.
You see, this
Anytime.
is let me explain something to you, Frank. This is exactly why South Africans just are just like Zimbabweans just like no sense of pride in self. You know what I mean?
Why
Like
would I come
no
back as
sense
a
of pride in
Zimbabwean?
self.
Would you come back as a South African?
Of course, twice. What are you talking about?
No, but South African men are very short. What a
No,
shame.
let me no, I don't care. Like we can be very sure. Here's the thing, right? You guys are still knocking at the door every single day. Like we'd rather be listen, I'd rather be a short South African than a tall millionaire Zimbabwean any day. I'd
You would
rather be
rather
a
be a
poor South
what?
African. I'd rather be a short, poor South African
You
than
know
a
you're
tall
lying.
Zimbabwean. I
You know
promise
you're
you. I,
lying. You
let
know
me
you're
explain something.
lying.
Let me explain something to you. I
Lying.
spoke to Shadaya. You know Shadaya, yeah? I spoke to
But
Shadaya
he's not
the
a
other day.
man.
It
Oh,
doesn't. Shadaya. You said it, not me. Anyway, listen. I spoke to Shadaya, and I was like, I literally said, there's just something about Zimbabwean men. They're just so docile. I've just never seen any Zimbabwe. Frank, I want you to think about this, right? Think about this, right? Which which Zimbabwean man do you know who has like some sort of confidence out? And just think about a Zimbabwean man today. Just think of anyone with a lot of
Mugabe is
confidence.
the only Zimbabwean man
See,
that has.
there's one, bro, there. And then she says,
But
"We are
there's too
sissies."
many single mothers in Zimbabwe. That's
It
why they're
doesn't
all
matter.
raised by women.
Okay,
They're
maybe
raised
that's what
by
it is.
women.
So that's where the real sissies are. That's why I'm surprised it's calling
Yeah.
South
Oh,
Africa.
yeah. I agree with you. I agree with you there. Very sissy. Very, very sissy.
Yeah, Zimbabwe. No,
But
That
but
country needs to be
Nigerian men
restarted.
are men. Odogu. All the Odogus in the chat. Say Odogu in the chat if you're a Nigerian man. Say Odogu. Haba. Come on. Can I see some Odogu in the chat, please? How many Nigerians are here?
Odogu.
Yo, someone's gonna clip this and show it to Shadaya, man. You're gonna, anyway.
Papa Bolas. Where are the Papa Bolas at?
All right. What was the next question? Let's see. When it comes to homosexuality, I'm not in support of how some of the views that Nigerian societies hold. I usually cover news and talk about how Uganda criminalizes homosexuality and stuff, and be like, Western influence should reduce in how they are pressuring Uganda to not criminalize homosexuality, which I still stand by. But I don't think it should be criminalized. I don't think it should be a crime.
Yeah.
I don't think people should. As much as my solution to it is don't legislate it. Just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. I'm not saying you should make gay marriage a thing, but just leave the Marriage Act in Nigeria the way it is. A marriage is a union between a man and a woman. By that definition alone, gay marriage cannot exist in Nigeria. You don't need to go and start arresting people. A gay marriage, by virtue of just what you have in the Marriage Act, just by the definition that you have in the Marriage Act, makes it that somebody who is gay, it is a legal impossibility to be married. You don't need to go. Anything beyond that is for me is too much. Locking them up 14 years we have in Nigeria. If you are caught you are going 14 years in prison, or if you get married, 14 years in prison. That is if the marriage is held in Nigeria.
Yes. How does someone like Bob Risky survive in Nigeria? I just saw that.
Don't mind. See, this is the beauty about my great country. We can write laws if it's to write law. You want a law criminalize people thinking. We write it, but enforcing that law, not going to enforce. That's how Bobrisky has been able to exist in this country, because nobody is going to enforce that law. Okay. Also, it is not a crime to be homosexual, to be transgender in Nigeria.
It's only
because there are men like pegging.
It's only engaging in that. Okay.
Is it because Nigerians moving
on. We don't. As a Nigerian man, I tell you right now, we don't. What is the next question? What is your understanding of child marriage in Africa? Exotic, go. Is there child marriage in Zimbabwe?
Oh my God, it's ripe.
You mean ripe or ripe? It's ready to go. What do you mean?
It's ready to go. Ripe. What's the word?
Ripe.
Wow.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Are you saying it's ripe as in it's ready to go, or it's ripe as in it happens a lot?
Ripe is like it happens a lot.
Okay.
Right.
Is that that you said it's
wow,
really
that's
good to
go? That's interesting.
No,
what about
you?
They
do it through the.
Okay, go ahead.
She dropped out. She said something.
Her audio is gone. Okay, modern man is child marriage a thing in
Hey man, in South Africa, it really doesn't happen that much. We look at you weird. Like there are guys. I mean, there are guys that get like guys in their late 20s trying to hit on like high school girls, but there'll always be that thing that is looked down upon. You know what I mean?
Okay, so there's this
there's definitely a stigma. There's a stigma around it, right? And the unfortunate thing is that like these little girls, they will they're just children. They don't know better. They'll brag about this type of thing. I mean, there's a famous Zimbabwean guy, right? Who he was being, the law was looking for him because he was on social. What's his name? Rutendo Exotic. Exotic, you still there?
Exotic, mute yourself.
Yeah, but this guy Rutendo was bragging about. He said something like the good thing about a 14-year-old is that you can have her and her mom. I don't know. He said something crazy like that, man. You know what I mean? And people in South Africa were like, "What? Like, no, bro, that's disgusting, bro." So it's not, child marriage is not something that is practiced in South Africa. To be honest with you, there are people doing the wrong thing here and there, but it's not
Yeah,
a
yeah.
thing to be
In Nigeria, in the south, it is frowned upon. In the north, it's like it's common, very common, sadly so. And it's thanks to one powerful religion, second largest religion in the world. That is why it exists. And I think that's why there's, for the most part, child marriage in many parts of Africa. People always say, "Oh, it is cultural." Yes, we have some remote cultures that still practice it, but when you see it rampant in an area in Africa, it is Islam. Just it is Islam. So
Okay.
so which the next question, how do we stop child marriage in Africa? Of course, my answer is get rid of Islam. I promise you, most of the child marriage issues will be gone. Where is the exotic? Exotic has
I think she dropped out. I think she probably dropped out.
She doesn't want to be here while I'm being Islamophobic. The next question is urban Africa promiscuous? Like the urban areas, the places that you have, like the cities, do you have promiscuity in the urban cities? I believe that this exotic, because this is the time for exotic to shine, but she's not here. Are those areas promiscuous? What do you think?
To be honest with you, again, experience in just growing up in South Africa, there's no such. It's like asking, are people is there promiscuity culture in America? It's like asking that. It's like asking, is there hookup culture in America? It's like the honest answer is yes. It's like, why would you even ask that? Like that is it. You know what I mean? Like you see it in the culture. So it's just like it's such a given in South Africa. They don't even have to ask that.
Yeah. Even in
fact,
Nigeria, like urban areas are just crazy. Like
really?
hooking up, sleeping around, like everything you talk about how women are loosed in the West, like when you go to cities is crazy. One guy, one lady, 5 boyfriends, 10 boyfriends, multiple men.
Really?
It's common.
Snap, that's crazy, bro.
Yeah. It's common. Like, and is for me, it's one of those things that I look at in Africa and I'm like, this is concerning. This is really, really concerning. How quickly we are. Also, another question I want to ask before I start rambling about African promiscuities. Do you think urban Africa is woke? Like, do you think woke ideology is prevalent in urban Africa?
No, man, not really. I think that the fact that we still have our parents are still around, right? It's like we got one foot on this side, one foot on the other side, which means a lot of us are really centrist, right? So we're not quite woke, we're not quite right wing, we're not quite conservative. We're like the middle child, right?
Yeah, we are. Politically, ambiguous.
That's pretty much. That's how I see it, to be honest with you.
You can have an African who will be like, that's racist, and it's still tribalistic at the same time. Like, how we are able to
exactly
be everything at the same time. But it also the trend of wokeness. I see a trend of it. Like, people are becoming more and more. I would say people in urban African societies, both for good and for bad, right? There's a good aspect of it that I'm like, we should encourage this, and there's a bad aspect of it that this is getting too much. For good and for bad, we are becoming more and more liberal, right? You can say that about urban Africa. Very liberal. We have liberal thinking, people who can even like entertain. For example, if you go to rural Africa, there are certain ideas that the African, those people, they will not even entertain the conversation. Like, you bring it up, they will not entertain it, right? But in urban areas, people, even though they will not like say, oh yes, this should be done. Let's say homosexuality or transgenderism, for example. If you go to urban areas, even in cities, in countries where it is banned, if you go to urban areas and you talk about it, you see people who are very liberal about it and be like, we shouldn't have these laws. And they can have that conversation. Even those who will be like, we should have the laws, at least they can have that. They will not see the conversation as ridiculous. They will have it. But if I go to the village and tell my grandmother about gay people marrying, to fiakwa. Don't even mention it. They will not have,
Facts. Right. Okay. Yeah. No, that's fair.
So yeah, we've gone through all the questions.
Oh wow.
And now we have to go through. Yeah. We have to go through these special questions here. Let me start with the ones that one behind.
Cool.
This is from Pope John
Bowles.
He said, tribalism in peace progress silly Yorubas refused to vote for Badebo because his mom was Igbo. They instead voted for a governor that had done nothing in his 4 years. Well, true. I've lived in, I don't know what place is this, for 2
Harare,
years.
that's in Zimbabwe.
Harare.
That's in Zimbabwe. Yeah.
They're shouting out to Zimbabwe, and she's not here to accept it. Lovely place. A lot of Nigerians in Zimbabwe. I would be shocked. Zimbabweans are brilliant people. Okay, cool. Thank you for that. He also said, it almost seems as if they don't want us to do well. Here's
This
the funny
was
thing.
in relation. I think this was in relation to South Africa when we're talking about like the migrants situation.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And here's another one. Talk about. We spoke about it.
Yeah,
We
xenophobia.
talked about xenophobia, and then another comment. This is from Jazz. Say, Frank is Frank, legend, and we are proud of that. My people are proud of me. I always try to.
That's good. That's good, man.
There's something people say about my channel. So, my channel is where South African rand is very valued.
Facts.
Pope John also said, we are way past slavery as an excuse. Nigeria has more money than people realize. Yet the citizens live in squad law. Yeah, true. Now, some of the highlighted questions. What has the UN done in Africa? Not much.
Useless.
Not it's essential. The UN is a useless organization. Everybody knows that at this point.
That's it.
The UN is a very useless organization. Should Africans become like Europe and make an African governing system, easy border crossing? The easy border crossing part is what right now. When we become like Europe, yes, we can have the easy border crossing. But but if we are less like Europe and more like we are right now, I don't want easy border crossing. I don't want people from Niger to easily cross into Nigeria. I don't want people even from northern Nigeria to easily cross to the south.
See, there you go. Yeah.
So
that's
for
fair.
security reasons. For security reasons.
Of course.
Yeah. Another question said, why are countries using the language that their colonizer countries use? Shouldn't we use ours as the only national language and then add English or French as a subsidiary second language?
I mean, I don't know. With Nigeria, said that you just have the language of command, but in South Africa, we've taken everyone's language. Even in our national anthem, the national anthem has everyone's language represented in the national anthem. So you have English, Afrikaans, and then you have Xhosa/Zulu, then you have Sotho/Tswana. Like all the language are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very beautiful. It's very beautiful. But in a country where you have over 500 languages, how do you do that? So you see, this is the problem.
Yeah. Wait.
Okay. The other question is, should we make our own African currency like the EU? It's a good thing. We should. Because the more we spend, if we have something like that, if we have euros, it will be good. Especially more people spending it, it's going to make the currency stronger, stuff like that. We should, but I don't know if we would.
It sounds like you're wanting to carry on Gaddafi's legacy. I don't really like that. I don't really like this one currency thing. I really don't.
Okay.
I just see it as being problematic, right? We are just take Nigeria.
Okay.
Do you think that Nigeria, let's say Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon will be able to use one currency? And Liberia, let's add Liberia.
It was proposed West African currency by ECOMOG. The reason why it failed was because the West African francophone countries could not get on board because France would not allow them. That was why. That was the reason why the ECOMOG currency failed, essentially.
I can see your friend saying it's a bad idea. There's a lot of instability with other countries. That's exactly how South Africa feels. South Africa is a bad idea because it just all the other countries just way too unstable. It's just not a good idea right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with that. I respect that. You can also consider that too. I mean, imagine where you merge a stable country with an unstable country, and then the instability in that country is also affecting your currency. That would be wow. That would be pretty wild. Like, I can see that. Exotic, is he okay to unmute? Can you still unmute at this point?
Yeah,
or she just wants to listen in. I don't know. Another question that I was asked is Honestly, honest question: do you do the sit at home, have community buy-in? I've always wondered. Yeah, it's kind of, it has become like a customary thing at this point in Eastern Nigeria, where you sit at home on Mondays. So yeah,
What is that?
I do.
What is
Okay, we have in Eastern Nigeria, we have a separatist movement called
okay?
the Independent People of Biafra.
A Biafra. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I got you. I got you. Okay.
Exotic, we can hear you now, right?
You can hear me? I can hear you guys.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Powerful.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
back.
back.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So yeah, we have a separatist movement, and one of the things they try to do is to, like, one of the leaders of the separatist movement, Nnamdi Kanu, has been unlawfully, I would say, yes, unlawfully held by the Nigerian government, imprisoned for a very long time. Even when court orders have been released, there have been court orders to say release the man. The Nigerian government have refused to release him, and because of that, the leaders of IPOB in Eastern Nigeria made it like compulsory that everybody in the East should have a sit at home every Monday. So
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
for him to be released, and it has been happening. Here's the funny thing about the sit at home: the government just pretend like it's not even happening. We thought the sit at home would shake the government. I knew it would not. Somehow, I'm very always thinking nothing will not work, and it ends up not working. Like, who cares?
Wow.
Who cares? You're the one suffering yourself if you sit at home. It's not like Nigeria is a mixed society, or it's like you're holding sit at home in Lagos. If you're holding a sit at home in Lagos, now you are holding Nigeria by by the nuts. But if you're doing it in Eastern Nigeria, it's like, oh, okay, fine. Especially when it's just Enugu, Anambra, Onisha.
Mm.
These states, if it's Port Harcourt, okay, maybe people will be like, okay, we have a problem here because this is like a vibrant city with people from different ethnicities. But you don't have that in most Igbo states. So you're essentially punishing yourself. And the government, like, okay, when you are done, you're tired, you get tired of it, you stop. Funny enough, it is no longer being enforced as it was when it started. But Igbos are like, we still don't want to go to work on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So now it is now a customary thing that on Monday you see many businesses are closed and people don't go to work and stuff. So now we have 4 weekdays. Is that not beautiful?
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. This
Right.
is from Jai. Thank you for a very interesting and entertaining stream. We do have do you have a channel at Modern Melbourne Man? Do you? Sorry, I didn't even ask. Do you have one?
Yeah. Sorry, I posted. I didn't know how that. So I posted the comment in the thing. It's just at Modern Melbourne Man. Sorry, I mean this
Okay.
is the first time I should go live on here, so I don't know
Yeah, you
how
can
to.
send the message again and I will highlight it so that people will know the.
Yeah. I think
Exotic,
it's
you can
just
do the same too. Let me promote. It's something that I usually do.
but is Exotic actually here?
She is.
I am here, you South African Zimbabwean hating demon. I am here.
I don't
Why do I
hate
need to
you.
go? I am here.
No, I want you here. I don't want you to go.
I
It's
know.
like,
Life would be boring without me. Think
No,
about it.
no, no. Yeah, that's why I
oh
brought
no,
you here.
man,
I knew
oh
that you were
man.
not going to. I knew you were not going to agree with anything that me and Melbourne Man will say. I was like, still, I want Exotic to be here to give us all the Zimbabwean input.
Flavor.
Or
The flavor.
exactly, or the Mugabe spice.
Correct.
Okay, you sent it. All right.
100%.
So here's the channel. I'll also put it in the comments to like the pinned comment.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
because I don't know how to. This was very interesting because obviously it was the first time that I've streamed on YouTube. It's actually not as daunting as I thought it would be. I thought everything's gonna be way
it's
too
pretty easy,
confusing.
especially when you use. It's pretty easy, especially when you use StreamYard. Exotic, is there any
Yeah.
social media platform you want to promote?
Oh
This is your
yeah. My
okay.
Instagram. Where can I write? In the comments.
Yeah, write it in the live comment, and I'll highlight it.
Okay.
Like you can also send it as a message on what is it called, on Instagram, and I'll put it in the pinned comment too. So yeah, but you don't post. If it's the Instagram you're promoting, the same one that I'm following.
Yes, it
But you don't.
is.
Do you have any post on that Instagram?
I'm a bit fat at the moment, so I cannot post.
Yeah, there's no post at all. It's like there's none. There's none. People are following you for just nothing. That's what I'm saying. Like there's essentially none. Nothing
I'm
is.
be- when I'm posting, I'm very beautiful, entertaining. Trust me. You'll be like,
Okay.
oh, is this
Yeah,
exotic?
wait. When once you start posting every live stream, I'll be like, please follow Exotic.
This is the
Like,
exotic girl.
she's my Omani one.
Yes, I am.
All right, guys, it's been fun. I really enjoyed the live, and I'm thankful that we were able to get through all the questions.
And
And I'm happy. I want to thank Modern Melbourne Man. I want to thank Exotic that now has X, so Exotics. I want to thank everyone in the comments. I want to thank everybody that gave us money. I want to thank Jazz. I want to thank Sachin. I want to thank all my moderators who are present. Can you not as well? I really enjoyed this live stream. One thing that I wanted to achieve with this live stream is to feel at home, to be more African. Because I felt if I have this live, it will be the first time I'll be really, really African. If you want to see more Africanness, okay, let me know in the comments. Say we love this. I want to see more African, like in the static comment, not the live comment. And I will do another one. Bring Modern Man again. Bring Exotics again. And we'll talk about something else. Trust me, it's going to be fun. And it will not be in this format. It will be in the other format. Okay. Thank you all. And until we see again,
guys.
peace.
Good night.
Latest.